No, Tom still doesn't trust you. That's just how he is.
No.
All right, we are live, friends. Welcome back to the Alchemy Bench. As you can see, we have a special guest today over here, the Duke of Dank, the Dutchman from Dutchland. They call him Hank Van Yank, the Stank. Swank, the Swank. Hello, Swank.
That's true. You just did, so therefore you're right.
No, I said
you're the royal they, instead of the royal we. No gods, no masters, but we do have a royal they. Good evening,
yes,
everyone.
we're social justice warriors. We were so fucked up gender language that we now have the royal they.
Yeah, exactly.
And also joining us here, we have Jonathan in his steampunk hat.
Hello, everyone.
And Tom in his Terry Pratchett hat. Julie may eventually join us. She did not say anything about not joining us. Jamie and Phoenix appear not to be joining us today. So, boobs and butts and stuff. Those are fun.
Well, there's always fun. That's always a regular topic on Social Justice Alchemy. So since we have a guest here, now we can bring up the topic again and ask him. Boobs or butts, Hank?
I'm. Let's just say, I'm not an and or. I'm more of a both. Why not both?
Why not both?
Here's the with butts thing. On or butts with boobs on?
No, well, the thing is, there's always in our society we always have this or this, and I'm like, cats or dogs. I like both.
Yeah.
So,
are you inhalation or exhalation, motherfucker?
And we also we are anarchists, so we're not about hierarchies. Those hierarchies have to justify their existence, so we're not going to put cats above dogs.
Exactly.
It's just a preference thing.
It is a preference, but for me, it depends on the person. Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
I'm partial to my own boobs, so.
Oh yeah.
I think everybody is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't love yourself, then who else can love you? So you gotta love your body too. Love your own butts, love your own boobs. I see nothing wrong with that. Self-loving.
And you have the toy to facilitate.
Speaking of self-love, I'm leaving. Let's see. How do you get out of this thing? I got some good porn. You got me all hot and bothered now. Boobs, butts.
Just don't share it, or I'll have to mute you again.
Oh no, I'm leaving. I'm not going to show you. I hope my camera turns off. Otherwise, this could be a very embarrassing, 5 minutes.
We already got to the debauchery already. Boobs and butts already. Something happened or something like that. Hank, introduce yourself and introduce your channel or something like that. Even though it's been inactive, it still has content on it. So, what is the channel Culture Shots all about?
Well, it's the reason it was inactive is because I got a new job and it was very hard to combine. Thanks to the current crisis, I have a little bit more time, so I hope to start making videos a bit more. My channel Culture Shots is I was annoyed that far right people are usually talking about culture in a very narrow way. First of all, they seem to lack an understanding of culture, what it does, what it means, how fluid it is, etc. So I wanted to start a channel to debunk a lot of the myths they have. And I also believe that if you are literate in culture, it is very hard to remain alt-right or to become alt-right because you know what they're peddling is bullshit. So that's why I started my channel. Then I got a job which required me to travel a lot to that job back and forth. I have all the things settled now. My technological hiccups have been sort of smoothed over, so hopefully I can start my channel again. So this is actually a great moment for me to be on the podcast. So please do check it out and see what you think. Leave a comment, tell me what you want me to do more, and I'll try to do it.
Cultural
You should do
Marxism.
more videos.
More videos. You're right. Yeah.
So what exactly is culture besides white people being better than everyone?
No, you go ahead, Hank. I'm sorry.
If you look at cultural expressions, I'll give an example. What is culture is very broad. I won't really touch that, but I'll give an example of what they are failed to see. For instance, Paul Joseph Watson, we all know, the basement dweller. He was very bothered that some people had appropriated Shakespeare to an extent that he said, well, they included feminism. And he said, well, you can't mess with the classics. And I'm like, that's the entire point of plays, is that you interpret it in your own way and you make your own play. It has been done for 400 years.
More than that. You go back to the ancient Greeks, they were constantly fucking with their myths. Once upon a time, what's her name? Medea was famous for protecting her children, not going crazy and killing them.
Exactly. So, and he seems to see it has to be set in stone. For instance, in the Restoration period, Shakespeare was considered to be a bit of a bummer because he killed all the kings.
Yeah,
a lot of kings were killed.
Not just the kings; he killed everyone.
Exactly. And during that Restoration, it was seen as let's just say, if you chop off the head of the father of the current king, James II, Charles II. He's kind of sensitive towards that. So what they did is they changed the endings to happy endings. So, and they were really popular for the longest time. But it also means that you add politics. So this entire notion of adding politics to culture being new is bullshit.
Yes, exactly.
Been done for centuries as well. So this is one little, and I happen to know a bit more about Shakespeare because I did my master's on Shakespeare. But
why don't you study your own culture and heritage?
Yeah.
We don't have Dutchland have plays?
we do. They suck. That's the problem.
Didn't Spinoza write a play or two or something? God.
No. It's he was more in the philosophy. We have one who was around the same time, but that is Vondel. The problem is Dutch has evolved as a language to such an extent that it's almost another language to read 17th century Dutch, while English, although Shakespeare is not the easiest to read, but it's still legible.
Yes,
it was pronounced entirely differently, but you can still read it.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing we changed in the course of 400 years. So it seems like, and I got annoyed because he got so much wrong, and so many of these guys got wrong. Calling Orwell. I'm doing a show with Kevin, which has been on hold as well, which we hope to do in the near future. Reclaiming Orwell.
Yes,
where we talk about how Orwell is abused by the right. By saying that censorship by definition means Orwellian, and which is absolute nonsense. No. And by the way, most of the people who abuse Orwell like that, Orwell would have shot in the face.
Yes,
during the Spanish Civil War. So,
because that's what he did. Yeah, I listened to the audiobook of Homage to Catalonian. Yeah, and he was a socialist before that, but became an anarchist after that, as we mentioned previously on this podcast. Because he saw Stalin betrayed the Catalonians' trust by just not helping them or backstabbing them, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Fuck Stalin, by the way. But,
yes, fuck Stalin.
That's I can't throw that in enough because
Yes.
on social media we sometimes we acquire some people who are tankies.
Yes.
And once in a while, I just say fuck Stalin and just see them all leave, which is good.
Yes.
I don't want to have those people.
Also, because Julie can talk about like her experience on anarchist means the best way to like piss off like tankies, like critique architecture. Just seriously critique architecture, and some of the one or two tankies will like lose their ass. But also just like say sex workers work. That's also apparently pisses them off. It's just like, and well, yeah, because. But that's the thing about like Orwell and how like the alt-right just and right mistakes like censorship for Orwellian. No, Noam Chomsky has talked about this before. I mentioned this before in one of the early prefaces or introductions that Orwell wrote for 1984, which never originally got published. It only got published later on, like in the 80s or something like that. And the critique, correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't read the book still, even though I'm born in 1984, is that Newspeak is limiting your speak. You are so limited, almost like an Overton window, with what you can say that if you
I can't say the N-word.
You can't say no. Anyone can say the N-word. Results may vary, though. But with the limiting of newspeak, of like so little words you can say about this or that, you're limited in what you can say. And if you're limited in what you say, you can dare not even think of. And that's what becomes common sense. And so that's what's Noam Chomsky's point, and bringing up Orwell, is that like if you can't think about socialism or think about communism, or can't say those things, you can dare not think it. If you dare not think it, it's just out of mind, and you're limited of what you can do.
But it's also, if you look at, and it is happening in politics, but in very narrow degrees. For instance, the words. It's like doublethink newspeak. What is an Orwellian term is the Patriot Act, for instance. The Patriot Act is a very Orwellian term, as it has nothing to do with patriotism. Nothing.
Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Exactly. In short, it's bullshit.
Yes.
But coming back to the N-word, Ta-Nehisi Coates has a brilliant explanation on why white people shouldn't say the N-word. Not that they can't say, but shouldn't say it. I mean, I really recommend you looking that up, the N-word, Ta-Nehisi Coates, because he says, for instance, if I'm with my wife and I say honey to another woman, she is going to be annoyed. Just because I have a familiar relationship with my wife, I don't have a familiar relationship with the other woman. There's a different relationship. And he explains it much better than I am doing right now. So please do watch that, because it really helped me. And also another tip, I forgot his name. Great African-American stand-up comedian from the 1970s. He was also in a Superman movie, Superman 3.
Richard Pryor,
thank you. Richard Pryor and the N-word, and why he never says it, and also he never says it to himself and uses it on other black people, because he went to Africa and he said, I had to shake that off. And the anguish and the pain that he manifests there, to me, it really affected me. And it kind of really it drove the point home for me. So not Orwellian anyway, but I'm sorry. Yeah.
No problem. No, it's like it's kind of related, especially since and John brought it up that like the right always complains, oh, this is Orwellian, I can't say this, and just like
and they're making up new words.
Yeah. Which is the opposite of newspeak. You just like, and that's fine. I mean, having more words of expression for many different things is great. I mean, when I described like my gender, when I discovered I wasn't cis, I was like, I feel like it's like I'm a man, but I want more. I want to feel more. But someone mentioned, oh, that sounds like demigender. It's like, what's that? Oh, that's the thing. And it's like, and so that's when I adopted the identifier as like giving non-binary, because like, I'm not full non-binary, but half non-binary, like 75% man and like 50% non-binary. And yes, that's more than 100% gender, which is nothing wrong, and that's my expression.
But yeah,
and
so
go ahead. I was like, yes, that's culture.
That's culture. Yeah.
To me, culture is only because I'm bringing up anime, only because in like a Super Dimensional Fortress Macross, he was the Centrati was a very militarized culture, as it were. So when they saw like the humans, two of them kissing, it was like, culture, and it's just like it's a thing. And then later on, they was just like one of these Andrades says in that one, honey, let's make culture, which is just a euphemism for kissing and sex. So no one gets it unless you've seen
culture is
yes.
Sex. I buy it.
That's where my mind goes sometimes, of course, to anime. Anyway,
what's his name? Non-compete. American Johnson had a video up a little while back about I can't remember what it was about, but at one point, at the very least, he talked about the ancient Greek view of inspiration and culture and so on. How everybody sort of shares in these things, and how culture is a communal activity, constantly being created and reinvented.
Oh, it's there's a French philosopher, and his name escapes me, but he talks about lieu de mémoire. He talks about memories that we all share. For instance, if we say 9/11, we all have that. We have a memory of our own, but we have a shared memory, a shared memory of our shared experiences. And if we talk about Mona Lisa, we all know, oh, Mona Lisa. There is a shared, and that's culture. That's inescapable. We can't fathom it, but it's there. And problem it can be used as a weapon, so to speak, and it is unfortunately being very effectively used by the right to create a fake culture, like this idea that before 1950 no one outside of their own country spoke to each other, that we were all in our own countries, not well, in fact, there are, for instance, I live in the Netherlands, and there's a skull. It's a bit creepy, but I'm going to go there. There's a skull with a Z in the skull, and there are several theories. And one of the theories is that this is a 400-500-year-old skull, or older. It's in the Middle Ages, and the most prevalent theory is that it was a Moorish man who was who escaped from Spain when the Christians took over control over Spain. And in Moorish people, they could have multiple wives, and they think it's not a Z but a 2. And he fled to the Netherlands. So this proves, first of all, that there were people of different colors in the Netherlands in the Middle Ages. This also proves that there were refugees.
Who else? How else would you get black slaves for Santa?
Yeah, black meat.
That is a 19th century.
And also, the Spanish once ruled over Holland, and the Spanish were black. That's why they declined, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting theory, Joe McClory. It's a C fighter. Dragon Ball Z confirmed. I
was pretty sure it was a earlier relative of Harry Potter that shows that he was from the Netherlands, obviously.
Yeah, it's Harry Potter with clogs, basically. Living in a windmill. Yeah.
living
in the
living
corner,
under
the
the stairway
cupboard.
in a windmill in
Yeah.
his aunt and uncle's grain grinding factory.
No, tulip factory.
No, in my head canon, it's a grain mill.
No, it's a tulip mill. They grind
Oh,
out
just
tulips.
because you guys have to pump a lot of water into the North Sea in order not to drown.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
That's what the windmills were for, weren't they?
When they were Holland is a part of the Netherlands, and in Holland, that's the lowest part, and there we have a lot of windmills for water. If you go outside of Holland, which is above sea level, then they use it for grain. But they are not in such a beautiful line. So you have one picture which is very famous of all these windmills, and that's all that they were all used to pump water. Some are still used to pump water, but usually now we just use diesel.
A little bit more,
more reliable. Yeah.
Well, since I'm American, I have no idea that there is a difference between Holland and the Netherlands. You're all the same, and you all wear wooden shoes, and you all are below sea level, and you all grow tulips. It's pretty much absolutely the same thing.
So is Holland one of the counties?
There are 12 provinces, and 2 provinces. You have South Holland and North Holland, and and most ships, because Amsterdam is in North Holland, and most ships went from Amsterdam, so that's why people say I'm from Holland instead of I'm from the Netherlands, which at that time the provinces had more control. They were like what the United States is now, with like different states, etc. They were the Zeven Verenigde Nederlanden, so like the 7 united Dutchlands, so to speak, lowlands, and they all came together. So yeah, that's the difference.
Is one of them Friesland or Friesland?
Yeah, that's also Friesland. Yeah, that's
Friesland.
Also one of
okay,
yeah.
If I remember correctly, that has a history. I don't know if it's independence, but certainly of.
Well, they want to be, and we're all like, "Sure, leave. We don't care."
So
no, I'm talking about way in the past that they weren't they somehow connected with Vikings or
their
raiding
language
or trade, or was it trade?
Well, they still have. There's still a bit of a independence movement, and we're all like, yeah, we don't care. But no, the Vikings, I don't know, but they are the most blonde of us all. Let's put it that way. But they're not from Viking stock. That's a bit further up north.
Okay. They did colonize England. Give us our language.
No, I just have in the back of my head that Friesland has got something to do with aggressive external martial efforts, and that might be entirely wrong.
Not that I'm familiar with.
This would have been much long time ago in the medieval.
They were
period.
Medieval. Before that, they were rather reticent to being becoming Christian. There is a saint who went to Friesland to convert them, and he was beaten to death quite thoroughly.
The good old days.
Wasn't Beowulf Frisian?
Oh, but Beowulf, no. Beowulf is that's further up north. That's Scandinavia.
I think he's
That's I'm incorrect. No,
that's right.
No, it's Beowulf is Saxon in origin, but I don't know where the origin comes from, because it's strange that culture and languages don't let themselves be captured into like a relatively new invention called the nation state. There are these things that influence each other throughout history, so it's very difficult to pin down where it's exactly from.
According to Wikipedia, because he was a Geat, that would make him Swedish.
Ah.
David
Well,
Scott,
they
do you know
always
anything about that? Because David Scott also said, I still maintain the Dutch is just Swedish through a filter through a Dane.
A drunk Dane.
Drunk Dane.
No, it's we're bigger, so I think it's vice versa. So if you look at Swedish, there are like 6 or 7 million Swedes, and we're like 17 million people. So I would say,
Yeah, but you've got all sorts of foreigners there, whereas everyone knows the Swedes are pure. Hence, the golden one is so proud of being Swedish. Or
yeah, if he's so proud of being Swedish, why doesn't he live in Sweden?
There is a pattern of people who are extremely proud of the nations of the Nordic nations they're from who don't live there anymore.
It's very interesting. It's almost like they're full of shit.
It's almost like that.
It's so weird. They're very proud of their country, but they refuse to live there. Yeah.
Yes, Joe McClory. It's where Frieza is from Dragon Ball Z. We confirm. Yes. Still haven't watched much of Dragon Ball Z. I've watched a little bit of it, but I don't know if I'm going to go back to it.
There's so many episodes. There's so many episodes.
Well, if you cut out all the flashbacks, then you cut each episode down to about 5 minutes, and it's really easy to get.
That's true. It's like an hour if you exclude all the flashbacks, and if you cut Goku just throwing in the Spirit Bomb, which took like 17 years, I think.
Yeah. I didn't watch a Broly movie. I actually liked that one. It what contained a story. It had characters I actually cared about that weren't the main cast, and it's just like I was able to like walk in as a I know vaguely these characters because I watched the show when I was 8 years old for like 3 weeks. Stopped watching for a month or so. Came back and I'm like, wait a minute, Goku still is training for his fight against Vegeta? What? What have they been doing all those time? I'm glad I wasn't watching that then, but yeah. I rather just like read the original Journey to the West, honestly. But Dragon Ball Z was not the lose adaptation of Journey to the West. That was the first Dragon Ball. That was a lose adaptation.
I like the first Dragon Ball. I also like his other work. Toriyama is a very, very gifted artist.
Oh, and, yes.
And his work in video games is really amazing.
Chrono Trigger is my favorite video game easily.
Oh, the music as well. I mean,
music is great.
So yeah, so I love his work. It's just that capitalism kind of mandated that every story needs to be milked to like oblivion.
Exactly. And mangas are designed to go on forever and stuff like that. So it's just like a new arc and a new arc and a new arc. Sometimes you can do it creatively and do it bizarrely, like with JoJo's Adventures. But like, I don't know. It's like I guess that's why I never like gotten. I can see myself read some comic books if I know there's an ending. But that's why I like the majority of other anime. It ends. Most of them end. They tell their story within 26 episodes or 13 episodes, and sometimes less. And with most of them,
it's not. That's not really. It's not a Japanese phenomenon. If you look, I started reading The Wheel of Time in 1997, and
he originally intended that to be a trilogy.
A trilogy, yeah. When it was a trilogy, so I read the first part. I'm like, okay. What is it? 3,000 words pages. I can take that. So, and then I was reaching book 3, and it's like, oh no, it's going to be 7. And I'm like, okay, 7. I can. And that was a book 6. I think this was 6. And Matt was under a rock for like an entire book, and he didn't really even come back. And I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I've read 7,000, and then it was 9, and then it became 14. It's 14,000 pages of and. That could have been whittled down to, let's say, 9,000 if I'm generous. But yeah, so it's not just a Japanese.
Right, but what's really unique about like for just Japanese television? I may have already mentioned this on the show before, but like well, unlike in America where the NIP works as like they like you pick the pilot, pitch it, and then like order like the number of episodes. The studios, the networks, or the streaming service, they will finance the show. In Japan, from what I understand, the networks they will put the show on it, but it's up to the creators themselves to finance it. So that's a little different thing, which is why, like, when you watch an anime show like Cycle Pass, it's like produced by the Cycle Pass committee, and it shows like the sponsors or the producers or all that sort of thing. And so, and also it's just like you only get like one shot of it. You can like tell, okay, we order a season and that's it. There's no guarantee of like there'll be more of it, which is why like if it's successful, including for live action, okay, this would be like Shadow Warriors 2, Shadow Warriors 3, Shadow Warriors 4. And it's like it's actually kind of like rare for like a show to go on forever, unless it's like already a guaranteed hit because it's been shown in weekly for like forever, One Piece or like Naruto and stuff like that. So so that's why most anime, especially when it's adapted from manga, they have to like either create their own ending or just like say, well, stop it here. And then or sometimes they even go, hey, want to know more? Read the manga and find out the further adventures of Guts.
Or if they go so fast that they actually are ahead of the manga, they let Goku do this for like 20 episodes for him to drop the spear until the manga has passed again. So, but yeah, well, in the US it's a strange thing though, because in the US if it's a guaranteed hit, it will just continue being made. If you take Law and Order, Special Victims Unit, which has Ice-T as a cop, which I already found funny in the 90s.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, that show has been, I mean, how many episodes? I mean, that's 500 episodes of Special Victims Unit. Yeah, weird.
Then there's The Simpsons, which is also maybe cheaper to produce than a live action show. I don't know, but then again, maybe it's like not that cheap. But so long as the show still remain profitable because people still watch it, and they'll like keep on making it. And it's just like, unless the creator says that, no, I'm done with it. They're like, no, we're not making any more. Sometimes it's best to just like go off. I'm like, well, let's like stop here before we go in our decline. Yeah,
and the problem is sometimes they don't even have the rights to the show.
True.
And people just continue without the original makers.
That's true.
Community, for instance, had a season in which the creator Dan Harmon was not involved at all, which showed. He came back a year later.
It was good for the employees.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great for the employees. I'm not knocking it. It's just
also that.
It's just from a creative perspective, it's not the best usually.
True. Yeah. There's always something to be said that like under the system of the capitalism, whereas like in order to live you must work. Sadly, because the people who can't work and are on SSI and SSA, I can like tell you is difficult to do so. I'll remind myself to put the Google Doc of the charity links into the live chat as I do that. So if a project does like manage to like feed a whole nation's like family or a whole group of families, that is something, and I can judge the product for what they produce on the merits of it being a show or it being movies. Like the movie's not good, the show's not that good in that season or something like that. So yeah, I can separate the people got paid to like make it from that art I don't care for.
Yeah, well, it's if you look at I had a discussion with a socialist on The Hobbit, and I said, well, The Hobbit as a trilogy is a creative failure because it's a book that's 250 pages, which they have to milk into a 10-hour epic. It just doesn't work. And he got very angry because he was from New Zealand, and he said a lot of families got fed. I'm like, well, that's great. That's a positive. But I'm talking about the artistic merit, and the artistic merit just isn't there. And I absolutely love Peter Jackson, and especially his I mean, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is amazing, and his earlier work is absolutely hilarious. Please also watch his earlier work. Meet the Feebles. I don't know if you've seen Meet the Feebles.
No, I haven't actually.
No?
Sounds like a cartoon.
Meet the Feebles is a puppet show, and it's like some people. It's like it's an R-rated Muppets. Let's call it that. It's an R-rated Muppets, and it's hilarious. There is a song in there about sodomy. It's an hilarious film. He made it for like peanuts, and it's really, really funny. And also, I don't know if you've seen Brain Dead. Is also a really funny film. With a kung fu priest who kicks ass for the Lord. The guy made amazing films, and it's absolutely great. But sometimes when films don't work, even though they employed people, even though people were paid, that doesn't make them good. I mean, people get paid for making Transformers.
And Fox News.
Well, creatively, I will just say creatively, yeah, the Hobbit movie is not that good. I will say that the Hobbit movies were good for the New Zealand industry since it did save it, as now more movies are international movies are being made in New Zealand. Because I was in a hangout with like a Garrett, and he said like, well, hey, the Ghost in the Shell movies is not that good, but they did employ my friends and stuff like that. And hey, I can still say some good things about like Ghost in the Shell, as in I like.
Sure.
Like that.
But this you need to separate this. I mean, again, I want everyone to have a job. I wish I had a job in the film industry because I would love making movies, but that's not the point. There are two different ways to look at it. If you see everything as a ways to employment, that means that all critical assessment of works of art is rendered useless. Because I can say about a bad painting, which someone got paid for. I'm like, okay, this painting sucks, but well, the guy got like $1,000 for it. Well, congratulations. That doesn't make it better.
what I was saying about the Hobbit is save the film industry as opposed to like give people work.
Yeah, no, I get it, but even that, if you look at one of the most important films in history, is
Superman
what's the
2.
name?
Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation. Yeah, Birth of a Nation is one of the most important films in film history. And I can appreciate it from that perspective. It is also a racist piece of shit.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and it was very successful. Same as if you look at it, if you look at Gone with the Wind, if you look at pure how much money that film has made, if you add inflation, it's still the most successful film ever made. It is a racist piece of shit. You can say things that are important for the film industry, but are from a creative or from an ethical standpoint are something that should be evaluated differently. That doesn't mean that they lose their perspective in the film history, but it means that you should have a longer story when talking about those films.
Yeah, but anyway, I don't know. It's just like I can compartmentalize. I can still say like it's good for one thing, and as opposed.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. But you can't say you can't criticize a film. Or, for instance, I wish they made 1 or 2 films of The Hobbit, and preferably with Guillermo del Toro. I would have. Because he was the original director, and I would have loved that. 2 films, make them 2 hours each. You're done. Basically, you're done. You have all the things you need. But yeah, they decided to make 3 movies, 10 hours, and it's not very good. So, but then again, if you say, "Oh, it saved a lot of jobs," congratulations. Does not make the film better.
You could have made a lot of jobs and done something worthwhile.
Exactly.
I don't know about the specific circumstances of like the New Zealand film industry, though. But like, we can just drop that topic.
Yeah,
David mentioned.
No, I'm not. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Well, just I was noticing David mentioned Leni Riefenstahl. When you were talking about great films that are shit and yet influential. Triumph of the Will. I've watched that several times. I like it as a if it was a standalone thing for its art or for the way it does what it does, but as the message of it and the way it supported Hitler and Nazism, it's disgusting. So you can have something that is artistically, again, another example of something that is artistically influential, and you could divorce it from all the other social issues, political issues, and look at it by itself. But if you do that, you remove, you're not talking about the culture anymore. You're talking about this one aspect of it that you could somehow pull out, but you can't pull out everything out of culture. Everything is embedded in a culture.
I completely agree, Tom. Absolutely. And for instance, I think some great things have been made thanks to Riefenstahl. If you look, for instance, at Starship Troopers, which took a lot of elements from that. And by the way, I'm wearing my Verhoeven shirt. If you my Robert.
Nice. Oh yes.
So a bit of a Dutch pride here, but he what he took is those images and he totally flipped them. He made them ironic. He used irony in such a great way in that film. Oh, by the way, I did a talk with. If I can plug it in my channel a bit.
Sure. Oh yes, absolutely.
I did a talk with Kevin Logan on it because Sargon of Akkad totally missed the mark on first on the book and also on the movie, because apparently everything is irony for Sargon except when he sees our irony, then he doesn't get it, which is ironic.
Yeah, okay, here it is. I found the mirror. Yeah, I remember that. The Starship Troopers. Yes, the study and faster. That reminds me, a conservative coworker who's a libertarian, but right-wing libertarian, recommended the book. I think so. That the author who wrote Starship Troopers, Hyland, yes, Robert Hyland. Yeah. He recommended some of his books and stuff like that. And I think, but yet I agree with you, Hank, because I recognize the flip it on its head, the irony of it. Would you like to know more in Starship Troopers?
Exactly.
I like that movie a lot. I mean, I don't have many problems with Starship Troopers. Honestly, it's just cheesy and just
it's everything is. It's the same thing. Is he has a very peculiar sense of humor. I think maybe a bit of a Dutch sense of humor, because also in RoboCop you can't buy that for $1.
Yes.
And Total Recall and I mean Showgirls. People see Showgirls and say, "Okay, that's a terrible drama." It is. It's meant as a comedy. And if you look at it from a comedic perspective, because he made a Dutch version of that film. There's a Dutch film. It's called Spetters. And it's from the early 1980s, and it's one of the crudest films you'll ever see. But he does it on purpose. It's a stylistic method. I'm not saying it's a perfect film, Showgirls, but I found it hilarious.
Well, what is it from honestly?
Well, no, but there are some films that are seen as very, very good. I don't think it's his best film, but it's. I think it was grossly misunderstood. Because most of it is done with a bit of a wink, but yeah, I find it. What I do find strange is that even in '97, when that film came out, some people saw that as missing the mark because they didn't see the humor. They said it's Ken and Barbie in space, and that's the point. They look like Hitler Youth. That's if you look at Casper Van Dien, who by the way had a bit of a trouble with the irony. Couldn't really see it. He thought himself as the hero instead of the anti-hero. The colonialism had no clue.
Yes,
and that's glorious.
It worked for the film. That's right. Since you're wearing a RoboCop t-shirt, the first time I became a regular on the Justice Alchemy number 32.
We talked about RoboCop.
Yeah, because like I saw it the previous night at the Cinerama for the first time. So the first time I saw RoboCop was in theaters.
Wow.
And, yes. And I was just like, wish I was recording myself or someone was recording my reactions. I would say the ads on there. That was just like, oh my God, this is the spectacles right in front of me and everything. Yes.
It's such a film of them. It's like a distillation and a warning of 1980s Reagan America, and I think we're almost there, basically.
Pretty much, sadly.
But if you look at that film, how well it still holds up. I mean, both technically and its message. It's unbelievable, and it's unbelievable. There's a great making of, by the way. For more than an hour where they basically just wing it the entire film because the suit doesn't work and that doesn't work, and sometimes everything comes together. If you talk about perfect films, if you talk about blockbuster sci-fi, that film for me is close to perfection. That's so good.
The Jordan P said, I didn't like Starship Troopers when I was a kid. I thought it was corny. That was the funny thing when that film came out, 1997. My brother was working at a theater, at the movie theater or something like that, and even Verhoeven that mentions that it wasn't a problem of the film itself, but it was in the marketing. They made a mistake in the marketing as a next Star Wars. So parents, not noticing it says R and has blood and violence and nudity, were bringing their 5-year-old kids to Starship Troopers, and my brother saw the parents bringing out a crying 5-year-old kid. Is like, this is why I can never bring you to the movies, because you're always like that whenever you bring. And it took him my brother a lot of will to resist saying, your son just saw someone cut in half.
Yeah. Don't take your kids to a Paul Verhoeven film. That's basically, he was asked to do a Disney movie
after Basic Instinct.
No, there's a CGI movie called Dinosaurs, and he was asked. Oh
my God! Yes, I remember that.
And he said, "Really?" He's for years he's now trying to make a movie about communist Jesus, and they said, okay, if you make that movie in America, they're just going to shoot you, basically. Just don't make this movie. I read he has in the Netherlands he had a book out in which he himself says Jesus was perhaps real. Okay, I'll accept that, but here's why he's not the son of God, etc., etc., which in the Netherlands, which is mostly a secular country, except for some weird far-right idiots. For lots, it doesn't really, and I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, that's the director we know. Why not? But in the US, that's a bit more sensitive. But yeah.
Yes, it's just like we talked about this before, how for Tom, your experience of being an out atheist, and to Julie, that's just like out atheist. It's just it's
why
just
would
so
you have
weird
to do
me.
that?
But no, others have said that if they say that they're once they came out as atheists in their small rural town in U.S. America, people stop talking to them. Not even the way the post office will look at them in the face, and so
wow.
Yeah, we are a secular country on paper, but in practice, it's just we're a very Christian country.
I love it if you say, I believe it was Thomas Jefferson who, when he swore the oath, he did it on the Quran. Is that true?
I don't know. I know that Jefferson took a pair of scissors to the Bible.
Yeah.
Oh, that's let's see. Jefferson.
I know that I think
Thomas Jefferson Quran. He owned one. Exactly.
Yeah, he was. A lot of people at that time were.
It's the one that somebody
Islam.
used for swearing in 2007. I don't think Jefferson
Ellison.
on that.
Ellison.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, this actually did happen recently. Whereas, like, I think it was like a state senator, a state representative, like somewhere I forgot where. I did like swear in on a different book than the Bible, and of course, right wingers, like conservatives, like flip their shit, and they say, "You don't know the law. You must swear on the Bible." No, you don't know the law. It never says that.
That's Go ahead, Tom.
I don't know if this is what you're thinking of, but recently there was a woman who was elected was sworn in on a law book.
Oh yes, that's probably it.
Oh, that
was the lesbian representative, I think.
Yes, that's the one I'm thinking of too.
I'm trying to remember.
And then some guy, I think from the Roy Moore campaign, was on TV saying, "You have to be sworn in on the Bible."
Oh, and, she said, "No, you don't."
And you can actually see the guy's brain break. He's like, "What?
Was that Jake Tapper? Was that Jake Tapper?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, but it was really that was really interesting. But I come from the Netherlands has a Bible Belt. You can't imagine it because we're this big, but we do have a Bible Belt, and I'm from it. But even there, I mean, I went to a Christian high school, but there we had a lot of Muslim people because they prefer to go to a Christian school instead of a public school where there was no room for religion. So I always grew up sort of multicultural. And even also atheists went to that school. It wasn't really an issue. But I must say, go ahead.
Oh, is your Bible Belt Calvinist? Because in my head, Netherlands equals Calvinist.
Yeah, the very Calvinist.
Van Til and all the theologians I can think of who are Calvinists. A good chunk of them have Van in their name or have absolutely Dutch or Netherlands names.
But also there, it's Calvinist in name, because if you look at Calvin, actually what he said and how it is now perceived are two different things. For instance, Calvin never liked singing in church, and as someone who's gone to church for a long time, singing we do a lot. Just one of the very few things. There's again, I understand it has to do with frugality, etc., etc. But also we have, I believe, 34 different kinds of interpretation of Calvinism alone. And maybe I'm adding the Lutherans a little bit, but like dozens, because they all went from. Then there's this church, and then they had an agreement on 34, and they. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're back now, but like
like I said, all churches kind of. I'm back. Okay. My internet is not very good. I'm sorry.
That happens to me too.
Powered by Windows.
So it's like, there are a lot of. It's. It gives you cancer, what I heard from your president. So. May I ask a question? If the United States is a meritocracy, I mean, can you explain it?
Yes, we get what we deserve. We don't necessarily deserve good things.
So we get what we merit that way. I think maybe it's an inverse meritocracy where all the shit flows to the bottom and then we elect it. Well,
it's a merit in the popularity. Anyway. It's because like
it's this.
There's too as well.
You steal.
Or exploit workers for as well. Unsteal, yes. Well, it's stealing when you're like
or inherit.
Or inherit, that's right. We still have that as well. And it's just like, which is why like the says that white people have like more inheritance, because they keep inheriting to their children, and they've been on the top ever since as well. Since the West came to rule and stuff like that. This book is so be read. So our president. I don't pay attention to him that much. Just like get the news that sometimes talk about it as well. Speaking of which, like something I heard that happened this week. Oh, there was an attempted coup on Venezuela, almost like a bad Rambo movie.
Yeah, there was this bay, and there were all these pigs, and
again, yes,
I find it a bit unlikely that the United States would try to overthrow a South American government. I mean,
when has that ever happened before?
Exactly.
They don't even have bananas very much.
Oh God!
I don't know.
Yeah, as like the funny thing is also that like the YouTuber Bad Empanada on their second channel, his central channel, Empanada Reports, have like mentioned how it's like it's very remember if you're going to do like a military coup, tweet it out first and tweet at the real president, the real Donald Trump too. That's like, hey, we're performing a coup. Wish us luck. And then they got captured too. Oh
wow.
God. Yes.
I mean, people say that Donald Trump is the worst president ever, and I'm like, no, George Bush. For foreigners, George W. Bush was a lot worse because he's too incompetent to damage the world. Trump is too incompetent, basically. If you look at Kissinger, for instance, he's a very competent, evil man, but he was very good at what he did or what he's doing because he's still alive. So everything from Cambodia till in South America, etc., was affected by it. Trump has no skills whatsoever. So relatively, I mean, we are dealing with a worldwide pandemic, and part of that is also to blame is Donald Trump. So, like everything what's happening in the world is affected by his stupidity. But I don't see him invading another country because he lacks the skills to do so.
Well, I think from my point of view, he's not as bad for the rest of the world because he's abdicated any kind of American leadership. But for the United States, I think he's much worse. Is worse than Bush because the one skill he has is self-enrichment and self-interest. And he's making the entire the entire executive branch of the government into his little Casa Nostra.
Yeah, no, I agree absolutely.
So anyway, I'm just saying, for Americans, as a patriotic American, I almost wish he was worse for the rest of the world than he is for us. But he's desperately awful for us, and I don't know that.
I agree.
The potential exists though for us if he does preside over the death of the American elections. System. Well, the elections and the death of the American system. There is a potential for the lashing out of our country and it's in its declining days of empire, and I think that is a danger to the rest of the world.
No, I completely agree with that. Yeah, no, but exactly because people. This is also the illusion that Hitler was actually good at his job. No, he wasn't. He wasn't. Yeah. It's where madness met efficiency because Hitler had an incredibly efficient nation, the Germans, and he said, "I want this," and the Germans like, "Okay, well, let's get to work," and that's terrifying. In the United States, I'm not belittling the potential of what Trump can lead to because basically he has fast forwarded the Republican Party in full-blown fascism.
I agree.
Something that has been predicted for a long time. Some people say, well, it's veiled racism, etc., etc. But he just pushed the button, and they were all just there. It's terrifying.
Someone like Trump was pretty much inevitable ever since Nixon sold the party to the KKK.
Yeah, true. And I'm a bit annoyed. For instance, I really like the Lincoln Project ad. It was a very good ad against Trump, but none of those people took ownership of the fact that they created it.
Mhm.
The Republican Party from the 70s onwards till now is like Dr. Frankenstein, and he's Frankenstein's monster. And now half of them are trying to deny that they ever participated. But that's not the case. They were there in the 90s when Newt Gingrich almost weaponized his minority to always go for being against, instead of just standing up for your constituency. In the Bush years, you didn't hear them at all when people were being tortured, when countries were being invaded, etc. And now they want a pat on the back because they're against a full-blown fascist. I'm like, no, go fuck yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem with like this country is just like, in order to like, Julius talked about this before, is like in order to get the full like kind of like a systematic change that we want, desire to abolish the electoral college and like all these other like things, is like she thinks that like we need like collective like action, we need to collectively move our asses to like protest these things, at least protest these things to make our voices heard. But what are we protesting now? What some Americans are protesting now? I can't get a haircut, I can't go to church, we must reopen the government. But true, many of those are astroturfed
That's
by
what
the
they're
DeVos
saying,
family.
but that's not why they're saying it. They're
Yes,
saying
exactly.
it because it's wildly funded in order to open the economy back up so that the rich can keep on
and why exactly, and why is it funded, and why they creating discourse is because they're not creating the wealth, and they want their workers to go back to creating the wealth, and that's basically it. Well, if you look at the numbers, it's also in the Netherlands we had 60 to 70 people, and we have we still, despite all the good efforts of the Dutch right, we sort of have a social network. Which still a society where we pay workers to stay home, etc.
Yes.
Even though it is, I know someone who works at a very cheap store, like a dollar store, the Dutch dollar store equivalent, and she's been working for weeks now under COVID-19, and they gave her 25 euros danger for extra because she worked during a global pandemic. And then in that case, I've worked jobs which are minimum wage. If they give you $25, you can. That's pretty much a fuck you. Because I'm like, come on, $25 for 8 weeks of working during a transmittable disease, which hasn't been seen in a century.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because like medical doctors mentioned that like the virus, correct me if I'm wrong, is very similar to like SARS and like Ebola, but those happen to be like contained. This one just wasn't, and like in other countries they responded quite quickly to it and like managed to like contain it, did testing, provided like the protection for all those people, for the people that have to stay home. They also provide the services, but this country just doesn't, and this is also showing the cracks of like capitalism, because I've been listening to a lot of democracy now, and they mentioned like the reason why the hospital's been running out of supplies of like PPE for their nurses is because they never had like a full stock of like all those things in case of emergency. They just always just like stock it as well as a cost-cutting savings because the hospitals are for-profit entities.
Well, but that's basically it. It's the same with housing. Now we know that housing should be for the common good, because if people don't have housing, they need to get out of their house. And in case of a pandemic, you can't have that. And all these things you see, all these myths that the right have been pushing, which is we live in a meritocracy where rich people are creating the wealth. They are the so-called job creators, which is bullshit.
It's always been bullshit.
There is a nothing should be for free, which is nonsense, because you can now see that it's for the betterment of mankind that we should try to cure people, because if the society is sick, you could also be sick.
I'm better off if my neighbors are better off.
Exactly. That entire concept, plus the fact that the most essential people we have are people who we pay the least.
Yes. And they're largely from like marginalized groups as well.
Yeah. In this entire, and most of them women, marginalized groups, they are keeping this entire economy going. They're keeping the entire infrastructure going. and we decided that we pay them minimum wage, and you see all these things you see happening now, and what I'm afraid of will happen, and you saw the same thing in 2008 with the credit crunch. You saw the same thing with 9/11. The right is going to co-opt this. They're going to switch this, and they're going to say, "Oh, you're right. We need to get into computer. Everything needs to be computerized, so it's safer, etc., etc." More
we need
people
to fire all
working
the
lower
poor people.
Exactly, basically. And that's where I think it is going, unless we try to make action, try to make people aware that if there's no one left with money, they won't buy their shit. So I don't get them either. Yeah. Even John Ford, which is a virulent anti-Semite and a major asshole, he got that if he didn't pay his workers to the extent that they could afford a Ford,
nobody would buy a Ford.
Exactly. And this is like one of the greatest capitalist assholes in the world. He even got it, but these people are worse.
It's like it's ever since like neoliberalism from like Nixon that started it, but then Reagan and Thatcher ramped it up. It's been like David Harvey has talked about this. I listened to his like Anti-Capitalist Chronicles like podcast that's produced by Democracy at Work. Is that the elites have like saw the hippie movement as well of like the like free the free love, the free communalization, and like the hyper individualization as well. Within that is that like, okay, you can keep your hyper individualization, but everything else has to be like privatized. That was the neoliberal project of just like class consolidation, as it were, where the power is on the upper class and marketized like everything. And because of what was still left was the hyper individualization. Unfortunately, this may be just America thing, but I think it's happened in like other places because of America hegemony. The poor, we most often, especially the poorest people, the poorest like 160 million people that own just as much wealth as the top 3 richest people in America, they blame themselves for the situation more than anything else. And I don't know how to like get them to realize that, like John said, if I'm well off when my neighbors are well off. I don't know how to realize that.
Go ahead, Tom.
Turns out I'm getting old because I'm not. I came into this feeling tired and not feeling very well, and I'm feeling less and less well as time goes on. And I should probably leave before you get all communistic on me.
You're welcome.
Or on the other hand, before I start throwing out the revolution word, because I'm thinking that might not be such a bad idea. So anyway, I'm taking off. Those who need to feel that I've told them to fuck off, please fuck off. The rest of you, it's been very nice talking to you. Goodbye.
Yes.
And I don't know where you are standing, Hank. Can I tell you to fuck off, or would you prefer to be told?
Sure, absolutely. You can always
fuck off. Fuck off, you Dutch MFer. Anyway, I'm leaving.
It was a pleasure.
Pleasure, Tom.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
All right, so back to the revolution.
Yes. Well, that's another point. Not only are people blaming themselves, and unfortunately, this has been talked about before, like Renegade cut this out in a couple of videos. Like, first of all, there's that misinformation thing where it's just like, it's not us, it's China, and that hosts some xenophobic bullshit of like the Chinese virus and stuff like that. And I heard a coworker said
we need to stop buying things that are made in China. Buy American, damn it. We've got a whole nationalistic shutdown thing going with that.
What I find hilarious is that it's usually the generation before us moved everything to China, and now they're saying, well, we don't have any jobs left. And that's also it's the same now. Well, why did you buy American? So, well, because your generation fucked off everything to like the East. And again,
why did you just get a job? You sent them all to China.
Exactly. And also most jobs that were somewhat unionized. A lot of unionized jobs went to China, and what's remained are the service jobs where, for instance, which you can move to China because you have to wait a long time for your cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those things remain, and you see the same thing in the Netherlands. And luckily, I'm a big fan of the European Union as a concept. I think in execution, there's a lot to be improved. Mm-hmm. But at least now they're talking about taking back some production, because they're seeing that not having direct access to face masks is kind of a problem in a global pandemic. But there you also see, because the Netherlands also had, you talked about individualism. Individualism was a very big push for individualism in the last 30, 40 years in the Netherlands as well. And we see now that when we have what we call, and this is very arrogantly, an intelligent shutdown, which means that people are asked to stay inside. We don't force them to stay inside. And
same here in America.
Problem is that if you tell people for the last 40 years that everyone who isn't you can go fuck themselves, and now you ask them to stay inside for the betterment of society, that's kind of let's call it a shift. So people had to get used to the idea that there are other people in the world, and they can't just go shopping, because what people used to do when they felt scared, they went shopping. You go shopping, you buy new stuff, and because it's kind of a dopamine thing. You just go, oh, I got a new thing, which is really cool. And suddenly you have to do all that online. Which isn't the same.
It's just not that. We used to, like, if we want to just relax and go out, we can go out with our friends and party, or go to the bars, for those who do, or go to the movie theaters as well.
The mall.
The mall, yes, exactly. And sometimes there's a movie theater in the mall sometimes too, as well. But now we have to, it's different just watching Netflix. Even though She-Ra's Princess of Power season 5 is going to come out in 2 weeks, and I'm going to binge watch all 4 before that, because I'm a fan of that show. It's great. But it's just so feels different. And also there is something now. Yes, James J has shared this before, how you can actually set it up that everyone's watching the same movie, provided that you all have the same copy of the movie and watch it together online, through Discord or through all the other means. It's just, and that's something we can get used to. It still feels a little different, and we just. I don't know where I'm going there. We need to feel more happy. I mean, I know the meme of imagine the people who finally got human contact and just honestly start hugging people if they ask for it, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know. But also, okay, I remember a point as well. There's also this cult of work in America. It's mostly along conservatives as well. Because,
by the way, the conservatives usually, if you look at it from a financial perspective, in the US, it's the progressives that are making the money. Blue states, production, etc., etc. And usually the people who say that you people should get a job are usually not working. Not of the times.
Or not doing productive work. That was even Miguel Bakunin in his old 1850s or in the 1860s essay of the capitalist system has noticed that there's always been productive work that's usually done by the laborers, and then there's non-productive work that's always done by the CEOs and the managers and stuff like that. And there's something to be said about there being managers, but it's very different if, say, the workers get them vote on who's the manager, or if the managerial duties is just shared amongst all the workers and stuff like that. And it can't work. There are co-ops that work. There are co-ops that are happening right now.
I live in a co-op at the moment, so it does work. But I must say, look, the problem is mostly in the US is that there's a cult of work, I think, by people who haven't got the faintest idea what real work is. I think if Donald Trump would have to work a minimum job, but just let's be fun. Let's say a week. He couldn't do it. He has no clue what, and even then he wouldn't know what
he
job
has no
is.
skills.
He has no skills, but also he doesn't know how it feels that if I don't get up, I can't pay my rent. If I don't get up, I can't eat. If I don't get up, I'll have like a mountain of shit coming my way.
Yes, exactly.
He's always gotten up. He ate a cheeseburger, which was just left on his stomach, and then he just goes to whatever the fuck he does, and it's not work. It's just he's sitting on a bathrobe watching television. You can see it now how little he does. He considers that now he's working really hard, and people are tallying it up, and he works like 16 hours a week.
Mm-hmm. And he's only like working 1 day out of like for every like 5 that he's out golfing or some shit. I mean,
exactly. So now he considers himself a hard worker. So how little did he do before that? So just imagine. And this is a man who has, let's put it this way, billions loaned from Deutsche Bank. But,
yes, that's right.
But then you see how little they know. They don't have the faintest idea. There's the myth of Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake. They are like the major the exponents of that. Sure.
It's a complete disconnect from what people actually do, how they live their lives.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
like what Newton said. Oh, $1,200. You can live like 8 to 10 weeks on that, right?
Okay, you do that. You do that starting from 0, and here's your $1,200. Go find an apartment. Go find a hotel.
It still wouldn't make him, because he knows that after those 8 weeks, he can go back to owning 500 million.
That's true.
So it's the entire. If you have it's. I forgot if this is a Dutchism. You've got the sword of Damocles.
Yes, we know about that. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. The sword of Damocles. You don't have that. That idea. If I don't get up and just eat shit for a day, because I worked in customer service for about a decade.
4 years at a gas station. Yeah.
You need to eat a lot of shit all day long.
I'm sorry, I don't change the gas prices. I do, but my manager set them, so I don't know why it was like 20 cents cheaper yesterday. I can't control that.
And they don't they have no faintest idea what that does. So these people are not going to help. So this is why we need to see if we can vote in. And the problem is, in the Netherlands, we hardly have any people who used to have like real jobs who are now elected office. I think it's the same in the US.
Well, yeah, that's actually one of the things I noticed in like through the ballots. The primary is going to come up in like August, so close to there. So close to there, we'll see all of the primaries for like Senate seats, Republican seats, representative seats, and it's like very open. But then only the top two will go to the general in Washington State. Each state has their primaries differently. So you will see people like Good Space Guy. No, that's a real person. Look him up. He's kind of quite interesting. I don't agree with his policies, but Good Space Guy is a candidate. But even for like, for all the people that go to general, you look at them, you will see that like they have like a bunch of college degrees or like run a business for years or done those sorts of things. And I'm wondering, when is there ever just like an average Joe, like a barista or a bartender or a waitress that managed to get to like an office?
Well,
because it takes a lot of time and money to run for office.
And connections.
Well,
too.
If you look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, when they do, it's been held against them. She has like... She said, "Oh, you're a bartender." No, she has 2 degrees from a very highly regarded university. She's smarter than most of you, and you're just pissed off that she's a Latina.
Yes,
that's basically it.
A woman too. Yes,
and she knows what she's talking about. So she talks about debt. She talks because she knows she's been there, and she is still fresh in her mind. I'm not saying. I think, and this is the problem. I think some people. Mean well, they just lack perspective.
Yeah.
I think in the Democrats, you can see some people who've been in the Washington system for a long time.
Yes.
Meanwhile, they think they're trying to do the good thing, but they're just so. For them, I think they could fill up their gas tank for $2 the last time they did it. So you can't expect them to. So you need people like that, and vote those people in. Try to vote them in. Because if people show up to vote, in what my experience is, the U.S. especially, the U.S.
Democrats
is progressive.
when people can vote.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why the Republicans do everything so people can vote.
Yes, yeah, and the long lines as well, because like it's just like it doesn't matter like if like long lines get blamed for your candidate. Long lines are just terrible for just democracy anyway, because if like people have to like wait in 8-hour lines just to cast their vote on a weekday on Tuesday, that's not a national holiday. That is some.
But by law, your boss has to let you go vote.
For 2 hours or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah,
but of course they don't have to pay you while you're out voting. So
I must say that in the Netherlands that has been a lot better. We don't have lines to vote. I just go in, I vote, and that's it. It takes 10 minutes with us.
Yep.
People who can't physically be there can either say to someone else, okay, you can vote, or they can mail in. So that's all taken care of. The problem in the Netherlands is that they vote for the wrong people. As in, we have a right-wing government and they're doing terribly, and everyone's like, oh, the guy's doing such a good job. But if you look at it from a capita perspective, in the COVID crisis, we're doing terribly, absolutely horribly. We're like, and the guy's like saying, well, yeah, they started also with the entire herd immunity bullshit.
No.
And after like a couple of days, they're like, every scientist was like, no. Then they decided on the intelligent lockdown, because we don't have lockdowns, we have intelligent lockdowns. But that's a lot better. In the US, it's unbelievable what you guys have to go through, especially in the poorer regions, just to get a vote in. It's
yes. And like Joe McCory said, and like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when he like jumped on the show, how the Wisconsin opened up the polls and decided to have an election during the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's also that they can keep their like right-wing Judge Dushkanu on the bench. But they managed to like successfully voted him out. The Wisconsin voters managed to do that. And it's like, but it's also different in different states. Washington State, a very blue state, yes, we have mail-in ballots. Everyone just like gets a mail-in ballot. For people who don't have an address, I don't know, maybe they have to show up at an election office and like ask for a ballot there, and then like they turn it in there and something like that. But it's a mail-in ballot. You get 2 weeks in the ahead of the election, and with the voter pamphlet as well for all the information as well. And also absentee ballots is always an option, but for other states where they have polling places, I don't know how soon you have to like ask for an absentee ballot, and I don't know if like you need a legitimate reason for an absentee ballot, like a disability, you can't physically go to the polling polls or working that day or something like that. So there's these
you need to promise you'll vote for the Republican, then they'll let you do it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But you saw with he was named before, Roy Moore, the women came out to vote, especially the black women came out to vote in Alabama, and they waited for hours to vote, and they actually, thankfully, got that crazy.
Just barely managed.
But you see, even now that in the U.S., it was a poll of like 1,000, and Trump on the men still had like a slight lead. Just in women just cratered. He's like a 20-point drop on women. But yeah, guys still in the US are like, but it's also, I watch dumb things on YouTube sometimes, and they're not necessarily good for me. So I watched the video because sometimes I just don't want to think. It was a Jay Leno video on his garage. And it was Jay Leno and the guy from Tool Time, Tim the Toolman Taylor. Tim
Allen.
Tim Allen. Yeah. And under it, there was some MAGA douche nozzle who said, yeah, those are real men. And I'm like, it's Jay Leno. Jay Leno is what? It's just because Jay Leno is not progressive, and he's driving a gas guzzling car. And that's their perception of masculinity. It has nothing to do with any semblance of intelligence or any semblance of what is masculinity. It's just it's just a big fuck you to everything you disagree with. That's masculinity. That's basically it. Which is which is a weird thing.
No, it's a big fuck you to everyone who's not you. That's
also, yeah. So it's and that's strange because Trump. Also explains Trump, because Trump is a big fuck you to everything you disagree with, and they can just stick it to those progressives in sandals who eat quinoa, and I don't get it, and blah 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 blah.
Triggering the libs, owning the libs.
That's it, and you see that also in debate, and you see it online. We saw it online happen before Trump. I think Kevin Logan said it very correctly. Is that there's a thing called, people call it virtue signaling, and they have unvirtue signaling.
Yes,
they have the opposite. Just being the biggest prick there is. Gives you brownie points with their crew, with their people, and that's basically it. Trump is doing that. Trump is unvirtue signaling every day. He shows every day what an awful human being it is, and the other guys are like, the liberals are going to hate that. The elite. Well, they're voting
it's
for
all
a guy
about hurting the other guy. Doesn't matter if I get hurt too, so long as you get hurt first and worse.
Exactly. And also their entire obsession with the elite while voting for a guy who pisses in a golden toilet, to me, is the strangest.
Well, when they say elite, they mean Jews.
Yeah. And liberals. It's
true.
Well,
yeah.
The global elite, which is
Hollywood means Jews from California. And then there's New York, which means Jews from New York. Yeah,
basically. And it's also, you have the WTF podcast with Mark Maron. And he said, I used to be really into the conspiracy theories until I realized that all conspiracy theories means it's the Jews.
Yes.
and he's a Jew. And he's like, wait a minute, lizard people? That's what you mean with the Jews? Oh, okay. It's a global conspiracy. Oh, wait a minute. It's the bankers, which is the Jews. Yeah. It's because, and strangely enough, all these
cultural Marxists,
which is also a
Jews
bullshit conspiracy with Jews, basically.
That's because they couldn't say cultural Bolsheviks.
Yes, exactly.
Because nobody knows what a Bolshevik is in the U.S., and also because that was directly what the Nazis called them.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely. And if you asked people to actually explain what it is, it's basically, it's the same people who say that culture is important also find people who make culture feminine. And for instance, writers are all not to be trusted, except dead writers who should be worshipped. Because
male writers.
Except dead white male writers who kind of write what I want, who write for the fictional fairy tale of my past. Yeah, it's and there you see that it's what you have to. Of course, I think you're familiar with this Ur-Fascism by Umberto Eco. His essay, which is brilliant. That's like this ever-changing enemy, which is always the left.
Too weak and too strong.
Exactly.
Yes,
and that's you see that, and even so-called nice politicians, these are the nice conservatives, they have the same thing. Obama was the devil. He was like a tyrant king, and he was a weakling at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's related to Orientalism, the conception of Asians as individually weak and effeminate, but they come in these numberless hordes, making them strong and a threat.
Yeah.
And that's how they view immigrants. It's just all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and they always use that as like a scapegoat, as like a othering to be able to control the cis white male poor workers as well. Eugene Debs says they brought it out that the main reason there was never a solidarity amongst poor white workers and poor black workers after the Civil War is because the politicians managed to brought up racism to say, hey, listen, white people, no, you are better than the black people, so stick with us and we'll make sure that you're taken care of. And that's
the problem is what are white people?
Exactly, and that's been changing as well, because
they're not Italians, they're not Irish, they're not Jews.
Yeah.
it's how they're sometimes you see a tweet and they say Bernie Sanders is not white. I'm like, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. But that's also how tiring should you be that every time you need to wonder, he looks white. There's this, you have in True Romance, there's the speech,
the movie,
the famous speech that Sicilians, the film True Romance with the speech where they talk about that Sicilians they come from, and
that's why they have black hair, is because
exactly. And also there's that word that Quentin Tarantino has a weird fascination with.
Oh yes.
That's the exact same as the legend of Spanish decline, is because they mixed with the Moorish blood.
They must leave a long echo because that mixing of Moorish blood happened like 800 years before.
You can never get rid of the taint of impure blood.
Yeah, but it's the same when Molyneux said that socialism killed the Roman Empire. And because they gave away free grain in 40 BC, the Roman Empire fell in 450 AD. Sean has a great video on that, I must say.
I remember that video, yes.
When Sean says, okay, could you please tell me how long, why, okay. And because Sean has a PhD in, I think, history and especially Roman history.
Jew.
He had like a great video on that. It's absolutely amazing. But yeah, it's always it's not the whiteness that's the failure. I think if Trump loses an election, they're going to find an African American great aunt to blame it on.
No, it's going to be because of let's see, what's his name in charge of HUD? Ben Carson and Clarence Thomas and George Soros.
Oh, and Stephen Miller. Don't forget Stephen Miller.
Steve Miller. Yep. Oh, and Jared Kushner. He's a Jew.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, I think Stephen Miller could have COVID because his wife has COVID. Do you know that? Yeah. So, and perhaps Donald Trump also has COVID.
Yeah, one of his staff, one of his servants had COVID.
Yeah, Laura.
He freaked the fuck out, apparently.
Yeah, and now he says that tests don't work because she tested positive. He said, "Yeah, well, testing doesn't work." He said, "No, it's not a cure, you dumbass. Testing is not a cure. It's to me, it's still, it baffles the mind that people can still say, no, male white privilege does not exist with Trump as president. It's how?
I don't know what they think. Like, I know what they're. If I'm supposed to have male privilege, how come I'm not rich right now? How come I was struggling like that? Because you're poor. You're in the underprivileged class of like being a worker.
And you're not poor. You're not poor because you're white. You're poor because you're working class.
Yeah. Yes. And we don't compare you to Oprah. We compare you to a poor working class black man who has it worse than you.
Yes. Because like I mentioned how like for me, like, yes, we're under like a stay-at-home orders. It's not like lockdown, stay at home. So like it hasn't been police enforcing that. If you are out on the street or on the sidewalk without a mask, there's not laws that require people to wear masks. They ask you to wear masks. So it's not like
except in New York.
In New
York they fine black people and give masks to white people.
Exactly. That was what I was going to, because like the laws are just like disproportionately punished or like administrated disproportionately against black people and people of color as opposed to like
that's what the law is for, really.
Yeah, I mean,
isn't it what Nixon said? Is it why did you ban marijuana? Is it because that's what hippies and N-words have in common?
Yes,
basically,
yes.
That was a reason to arrest.
That was the war on drugs.
The war
was
on
a way
drugs
for him to go after people that his base, the KKK, didn't like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes,
and it's Reagan, and Reagan really like
Reagan ramped it up, and he's the one who gave it the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Continue it. And I think the prison industrial complex kind of like realized like, oh wait, because the 13th Amendment's a like exception for like except for punishment of a crime, they can use
enslave
like
people when they're in prison. Yeah.
yes, the new Jim Crow. Yeah.
And now you see white people profit from marijuana, while
black
black
people are
are
still
being
in prison.
Exactly.
Jay Inslee, you go ahead.
Also, something Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez is trying to bring attention to. So she's done several times, I must say. So
yeah, it's like because when Washington State 6 years ago legalized like marijuana. Some years ago, when we legalized, we did not pardon the people who were in jail for like drug offenses,
and they're still in there, aren't they?
Jay Inslee, when he started becoming running for president, he was one of the presidential candidates. He was the the climate change candidate. That was his gimmick for the presidential candidate. Didn't go anywhere. But when he announced his presidency, he freed a bunch of like he pardoned and released from prison a bunch of people with only one possession charge, only one misdemeanor or felony possession charge out from prison. It wasn't perfect still because there was like many people who have like a possession charge and other charges related, unrelated to it. And so it's like it's a nice gesture, but he also did it 6 years after the fact, instead of like right away or at least a year later after we legalize it. And because there's always like the federal law thing that could, if they decide to crack down, they never did. But thankfully,
here's the problem. Here's the problem I have is I understand that if you have very little money, you have very little time. Because every mistake you can make can be fatal. The problem is that Washington, sometimes you have well-meaning people who are trying to do the right thing, but it works so slowly that people are like, why the F aren't people doing shit? Because we need help now. And you see that now with the $1,200 bullshit thing. I think Democrats are actually trying to make things work. I'm not saying it's perfect. The Democratic Party has a lot of things. Problem is you have this asshole Mitch McConnell in the White House. On the Hill, in the Senate.
Yeah.
And he is, I mean, if there's one person there's worse than Trump, it's him.
Yes.
Because he's competent at evil.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's hoping we kick his ass out in November.
Oh, that would be so good, because even in Kentucky they hate him now.
Yep.
You know how hard it is to make Kentucky hate a white Republican?
It's 7. It's 7 hard.
So one other thing I want to mention, because this weekend, actually yesterday, a new game has dropped, and my friend Joanna has shared this with me. Thought I would like it. I will link the Kotaku article into the chat because the new game has developed. Tonight We Riot is from a developer that they call themselves Pixel Publisher Union 512, and it's pretty much it's a game, but it's a fun game. But he was always tired of I hate how there's politics in my video games and stuff like that.
Wait a minute. Is there politics in this game? Because there's a rule that we don't do that, right?
No,
right. We do not have
video games about white guys going to the Middle East and killing brown people are totally apolitical.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll tell a story about my grandmother who passed away this year, but she was an adult during the Nazi occupation in the Netherlands. And when she was helping my parents while I was playing Wolfenstein in the basement, and she looked at that game and she saw the swastikas. And she's like, okay, what are you doing? And I'm like, no, I'm shooting Nazis, Grandma. I said, oh, good. And that's all she asked. She's like, oh, we're shooting Nazis? Great, that's my grandson. That's nice.
And we have a whole lot of Americans who seem to have missed the point of those games.
There was this thing where Wolfenstein 2, where like, they're really politicizing it. I'm like, it's Wolfenstein. You're shooting Nazis. I think you should have a talk with a lot of your ancestors during D-Day. who were kind of involved in more than just a video game. But I'm sorry, I was interrupting you.
That's okay.
While you were plugging this amazing game.
Tonight We Riot. It is out on Switch, and it's also just dropped on like Steam yesterday. But is quickly adding on to the Wolfenstein thing, because extra credits to the YouTube channel has mentioned this before. There's been a lot of World War II shooters as well, which apparently don't have politics. But there's one thing that the most World War shooters like the Medal of Honor series and other games like that did miss out, like Call of Duty when it was about World War II. They failed to mention the Holocaust. Now, Return to Wolfenstein 2 Bloodstains, that was a video game that did mention the Holocaust. And so talk about that's probably what they're referring to, oh my god, these games are getting political. But yes, that's kind of the inspiration by the developer of Tonight We Riot to make an overtly political game, because he always knows that the promise is there is politics in video games era is either apolitical because it agrees with what's acceptable mainstream politics of American imperialism and all that stuff, but it's also sometimes right-wing, so people say that hey, you're trying to force politics in my video game, which is politics to disagree with. So he wanted to create emphatically leftist politics in video game in Tonight We Riot, because he got inspired actually by the Wobblies, the IWW, when they say take us to your leader, and they all say we are the leader, everyone. And so and that's why he also started Pixel Publisher Union 512 as a co-op, as just a Anarcho-Tomunists co-op, much like the developer of the Dead Cells, Motion Twin. And so I look at the trailer. I bought the game just as I at least support a Anarcho-Syndicalist a co-op developer at the very least. It looks fun. Really cool. I might play it on my Twitch channel sometime soon, either today or tomorrow. I'll just work out the kinks and make sure I can broadcast and do everything well. So twitch.tv/SummerAndAGeek. That's instead of E's in Geek. And yeah, it looks really cool. And it's about time that we have some leftist politics in video games.
Well, I think a lot of games have leftist politics. It's just it's implicit. Mm-hmm. And implicit doesn't really work well with right-wing extremists, because they either lack any perspective, or they are sincerely bummed out by the fact that they were asked to emote. If you look at, for instance, Final Fantasy 15 has a kind of a muddled message, but there is a very idea of personal action. There's we're trying to kill the gods, etc. There is some very interesting stuff in there, and I'm always baffled by people saying that there's no politics. In the first Lara Croft, there was politics. The male gaze is a political statement by its very definition. The entire, if you like King's Quest, which is 1987, the entire idea of a monarchy as a positive something is a discussion you can have. It's a political statement.
Exactly.
It's a fairy tale. But I'm really happy. I didn't know that from Dead Cells, by the way. That's really awesome. I'm going to buy Dead Cells now because I've always been interested.
It's a good game anyway.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's the strange thing about Dead Cells, I also associated with IGN and their
plagiarism, yes,
which is also a very interesting subject. Maybe not for now, but it's a very good. It's very good. Interesting that they are more in your face with their leftism, which is good.
Yes. Well, especially right now, because that was kind of the point. And you mentioned how when it's been leftist politics in video games all the time. One of my memes that I tweeted out that went viral 6 months ago, and I also retweeted it earlier as well because Final Fantasy VII Remake just came out. But I also attached #Gamergate, and that's where I got a lot of responses. And one DM that I reported, because fuck that shit. Listen, in Final Fantasy VII, you were working with eco-terrorists of Avalanche. You cross-dressed, and you're working with Antifa to overthrow a corporate like a conglomerate that was poisoning the planet. And tell me how like only now video games is entering in your politics and all the responsibility.
Take Nier Automata. There are so many. A lot of JRPGs are very leftist in their politics, which is very interesting to address. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And strange enough, things that really piss those reactionaries off usually I find very tame. They were very angry that Link was cross-dressing in Breath of the Wild.
Oh yes,
and I saw that, and I'm like, what's the problem? It's just he's pretending to be. I mean, are you going to be angry with Monty Python now? What is the what is the idea? It's either because they feel funny while looking at a man in women's clothing. They're like, oh, am I gay now? And I need to repress this, and everyone who made me feel like this must die. It's really weird. There's a strange thought process going on.
Anybody who blurs the lines, who doesn't do precisely what they're supposed to do, must die.
And like I wonder how many of them would love like the Metal Gear Solid franchise, like Metal Gear 2, and they were again. I think it's like there's time where it's just like they weren't aware of the politics in something. So, but now the craze of like the SJWs or something like that has brought more of politics in media, in entertainment, and Star Trek, and all of these things more to the focus, or like the infiltration of the alt-right and many like geeky spaces online and stuff like that. It's kind of like they only now think that like Star Trek's now getting political, or like video games are now getting political, despite the fact that like Metal Gear Solid. Have you played Metal Gear Solid? Do you not understand the point of like Hideo Kojima? Are you going to tell me that Hideo Kojima is not putting political messages in his video games?
Well, this is the problem. Instead of when Anita Sarkeesian started her analysis of Mario and said saving the princess is a political message.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like realizing she was right and like, oh, what does that say? She like they blamed the person pointing it out.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have an argument. They just don't like to think about these things. They just they're like, oh no, but and even Mario. If you look at Mario now, if you play Mario Galaxy, Mario is sincerely romantically infatuated with. I don't want to spoil the ending for those who haven't played the game.
Mm-hmm.
But the princess is changing her tune a little bit, and because Nintendo is also going with the times. So it's interesting, and that's it's going to change because we look at this from a Twitter perspective, and Twitter is, although important, is a very small subsection of society, and most people, my parents are. Which I didn't really expect, are because they were raised Christian, conservative,
Calvinist, in fact.
Calvinist, yes. But their thoughts on gay marriage, on transgenderism, etc., is far surpassed those reactionaries. And if they can do it like boomers in their 60s, and they're already catching up to these things, then I think when it comes to those things. It's looking good. And they are just a minority, the very vocal minority and a very annoying minority. But
yes. But there's also another thing is like you mentioned how how like when things are like subtle as well. There was actually like a video that like Jesse Gender did and collaborated with like the YouTuber Council of Geeks, who does an amazing channel. They're gender fluid and like it covers like media and other stuff like that. And Steve Shives are all of our friends. She did a video of the Star Trek's failures of allegory, where it's like, and it's something that Steve Shives mentioned of why conservatives still like Star Trek despite the very political
explicitly socialist message of the show.
Yeah, it's because like whenever like the thing that we're learning about like other cultures or other races or other genders is allegorically alien, that is easy for the people to not see themselves in the Ferengi because that's the Ferengi that are capitalists, or that's the Cardassian that are the Nazis, and
Like I
And
said,
so often you have the white male hero correcting those foreign cultures.
that's why they don't like the Deep Space Nine.
Or disco, because disco is centered on.
Oh yeah, on a yeah, exactly. But also that's what another time when I say conservatives don't see subtext.
Exactly.
This is also why they take the Bible literally.
Yes. Yes.
They don't see subtext and they don't see context.
Oh, neither. Yeah, absolutely.
That reminds me. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go.
Okay, that reminds me of like, okay, so this month my dad has his birthday, and I didn't realize it until like earlier this year, but like my dad has always been like conservative. He's pro-union because he's part of the union, and he's pro LGBT rights and gay marriage because like his younger brother is gay. And when I came out as queer, he doesn't really say anything, but yet I don't see him. I'm sure he will still love me as well, but he's so conservative. So not knowing what to get for my father for his birthday, and probably not know what's going to get him for Father's Day. My brothers usually just like give him an anime. They're like, "We think you'll like this anime a lot. Licensed by Royal. I think you'll like it." This year, I'm going to give my dad communism in the Bible because he is a Christian as well. Like he practicing as a Catholic right now.
Socialist Jesus.
Yes, socialist Jesus. Yes.
I saw a T-shirt that says it said Jesus is a communist Jew,
Just like Bernie Sanders.
He had two dads as well, in front of the Middle East as well.
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting that Bernie Sanders is just moderate. It's just the guy's barely. I mean,
he's a social democrat. He's not even a democratic socialist.
Yeah, and he kind of doesn't really understand the term himself. I mean, I like the guy. Sure. I think I like Bernie Sanders a lot. He has a sense of humor too. Unlike the current president.
Yes.
I'm sure Trump knows all sorts of jokes. Jokes about Jews and N-words and yellow words.
Yeah. The problem is people are still trying to make him like an actual laugh, just like a belly laugh. No one's ever seen him do that. If you just think about, you see Obama laughed. I mean, even George W. Bush laughed. Bill Clinton laughed a lot. I don't know if it's genuine or not, but there is this sense of you can kind of see a glimmer who that person is. Trump, when he laughs, he always like this. Like he doesn't really like that stupid grin. He doesn't know how to laugh, and that's scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
Well, I'm trying to think if like there's anything else. So like, remember the previous
unionization of gaming. But that was a thing.
Oh yeah. That was one of the earlier things that I put in the Google Doc that I shared with like everyone. So might as well, I can like put that link there. It's an older one from like January of this year. So but yeah, there was like efforts by some video game workers to like unionize and unite. So I'll just like click the link to the taco thing in here. It's a long link, so hopefully it'll allow me to post it. It's the link is too long, so just go to Polygon at the efforts to unionize the video game industry. Just a short shot of adrenaline. Just got a shot of adrenaline. There's people have founded like a Gamers Workers Unite, and they're trying to and they have 700,000 members unionized, trying to unionize the video game industry, and that's just has to happen already, because actually my older brother went to Japan to study computer programming, and so he did actually work in the video game industry, and he has horror stories actually of working in the video game industry, and but no, he worked for the shovelware kind of a developer, handheld games. It's gone now, and it's just like it was salary. It was like 12-hour days or longer, crunch. Yeah, and so Jim Sterling, I think, has been more and more radicalized just by covering the video game industry and the practices, the business side of it. And so, not that
Kotaku was very good. Jason Schreiber.
I think so.
Name?
Yeah.
They were very good with covering that, and I think even if you look at Nintendo, and I'm not people have the tendency to deify the things they love. I love Nintendo. Yes. What they do, but they're a company, they're a capitalist company, etc. But they said, for instance, when Animal Crossing was postponed, they said we want to avoid crunch. We want to say that we want to have people just go to work normally. We don't want to rush them, so that's why the game is postponed for 6 months, which I think was a very good decision. And if you look at the timing now, it sold 12 million copies in 7 weeks. Yep. It's been perfect to launch it during a global pandemic.
Not that they planned for it.
Not that they planned for it. But when they announced that they would take care of their workers and they wouldn't crunch, make them endure crunch, their stock dropped. Because apparently taking care of your employees is considered not good for business. Which is another reason why the stock market is a bunch of bullshit.
I agree.
But the stock market is not an analysis of the health of the economy. It's an analysis of the health of rich people's wallets.
Yeah.
And taking care of your workers is not good for your wallet.
Exactly.
And I think it must have been part of that neoliberalism, that the class consolidation, because like the only way that they get us to care about the stock market is because that's what your 401k is, and your retirement plan. What about a pension and stuff like that? And it's like, well, there's also been the union busting since the 70s, and so most people don't have pensions. So the best that corporations offer their employees is the 401k, forcing us to buy into like caring about the stock market, which I don't really care about. And I want to look at the history about that, because like it's just like a perversion of like the capitalist idea of property owning, because like instead of like owning a land, owning a company, owning like houses that you can rent out or pay workers to work, you said own part of a company and then trade and buy and sell that as well, capital gains. And of course, capital gains, unlike the tax laws in the United States, are never taxed the same as, if they're taxed at all, as labor or income and expenditures. It's just like, so, yeah.
I agree with what I would like is that if you have something like a 401k, but now it's being traded on the market, you should have, you could get shares of the company. You get shares of the company, that means you're tied to the company. That means you're part owner. That means
no. You're not. You're a resource to be exploited.
Exactly. and that's why they don't do that, because that would make sense. Yeah.
They might as well just give you a pension at that point.
Exactly.
Hello, Leto.
Julie.
Don't worry, we've been having a good time with like our friend Hank here, and John McDonald was with us before, but he was old by like an hour in, and we're just having a good talk about like unionizing the video game industry and like the ills of capitalism as well. The standard stuff as well. Some butt stuff, I think we mentioned that as well.
We mentioned boobs and butts.
A little bit. They talk about like movies, which are like
boobs and butts and boobs and butts and boobs and butts.
And we just got onto like the stock market, and I think I interrupted you, Hank, so you can continue.
Well, no, I'm fine.
Okay.
That's I forgot. I forgot.
That's okay. We just sitting around hanging out. It's been like 2 hours. Has there been any new like TV shows or movies that like you folks have like seen recently? Oh, and here's like Leto that's joining us now.
Something tells me she passed out.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I fell asleep around 6. It was around 6 p.m. and I just woke up now and it's 10.
Wow, that's
You're
ambitious.
going to have a rather miserable night of it then, sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
I just managed to finally get myself back on a daytime schedule. I had been, staying up until 8, 9, 10 in the morning, then going to bed.
I limit myself to just 2 a.m. After like 2 a.m., it's like, okay, I'll finally go to bed and still manage to wake up at 6 a.m.
Yeah,
but that's because
I'm a
it's
teacher
daylight
and I've been
savings.
working from home for weeks now, so.
Oh, there's
Yeah,
also
me
that.
too. Yeah, me too. I work at an IT department. I write articles for them, and I can do that from home. It's just less fun because you don't see your colleagues. But that means that I just my clock though, when you're just sitting at home all day, just fucked. It's basically. But yeah.
So for the past week, I've been just basically staying up later and later so that eventually I
fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
The
goal?
part
Go
where
to
you
bed
just
at a
like
normal
pull over.
time.
Yeah, the normal time. Yeah, I mean, after my last job of working at a gas station, there was like a year and a half where I didn't have that job, and I did like stay at home just by choice because I'm that kind of person. Just like staying at home, don't go out that much. All my favorite activities are indoors. The only reason I got on a schedule is that at the time I was playing online poker, so I wanted to wake up early to play at the tournaments on Full Tilt Poker that were good European times to get into those like tournaments and for my daily grind of 20 tournaments a day. But yeah, that was my life.
Yeah, you haven't really missed anything, Julie. Sasha only made one appearance, and I didn't highlight.
Well, I missed Hank, so.
Well, that's not much.
I'm pissed.
He's still here. Talk to him. Say hi.
No, I know, but
talk to him about David Graeber.
What?
Because you like David Graeber.
Yes, I like David Graeber, but.
I think I'll just have to come back sometime. And,
yes.
Oh yes, definitely, absolutely. We can arrange that as well.
No, I took some paracetamol and I went to lay down. And honestly, I didn't think I'd sleep at all. But
you still sound like you're asleep. Gotta be honest.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not completely. What's the word?
Awake.
Here.
Or as Jamie J would say, you're not part of the alive party. Jamie J famously says that like she is and never was ever part of the alive party.
Yeah, I am, but I haven't eaten yet, but I can do without. I think I have.
Are you sure? Doesn't sound like it.
For now, maybe.
I have what do you call it? A spare
block of cheese.
No, a fat.
Spare tire.
Spare tire. Yes, that's what we call it. Yeah.
The two great cheese countries unite because French and Dutch cheeses together.
Edam and Brie. And
Gouda, or as we call it in the Netherlands, Gouda.
Gouda?
Yeah, Gouda.
Like chowder?
No, not chowder. No. We're not from Boston. Khakis. Harvard Yard.
Hey, want some whiskey in the car?
Yeah, there's a great Seth Meyers did a movie about Boston. Boston, the trailer. It's really good because they have all the different accents from the John F. Kennedy, like all the people here. It was like the mayor, and also the British guy who can't do the Boston accent, which is hilarious. You should really watch that. It's really funny. It's because strange enough for a town, because Boston is not that big. There are quite a lot of films being made about Boston. I think there are more films about Boston than people who live in Boston.
I don't know, but it's still a major city. But then again, major cities could definitely vary amongst the countries and amongst the world, and something like that.
Yeah, but it's only got about 700,000. So
Yeah,
Okay.
for
Compared to New
United
York.
States. Yeah, it's like a blip
Excuse me.
compared to New York. It's around as big as Amsterdam, but yeah.
That's right.
list of U.S. cities by population.
I need to pee. I'll be back.
Boston is number 21 in the U.S. It's
Yeah.
smaller than D.C.
Yeah, but and if you look at the amount of movies made, it's not a 21st town for movies made. I think it's like number 4. It's like
Yeah.
L.A., New York, maybe Washington, and then it's Boston, basically.
You don't see all that many movies about Jacksonville or San Diego.
I
No.
know.
Welcome to San Antonio, motherfucker.
Yeah. The only San Diego movie I can think of is Anchorman.
Maybe Free
Anchorman was a
Willy?
San Diego movie. Yeah, okay, Free Willy.
I don't know where Free Willy
that's
was set. I know it had a whale.
Yes, that's all you need to know about Free Willy. It had a whale. Review of Free Willy. It had a whale.
It's so weird how also that changed, because in the 90s we're like, oh yeah, SeaWorld, it's such a magical place, and now you're like, okay, it's a torture.
It's a place for
a torture
torturing
camp
animals,
for
yeah.
basically.
If you're going to torture an animal, that animal had better be a human being. Damn it.
Yeah. Yeah, also that. It's weird. It's strange. But yeah.
Pacific Northwest was Free Willy.
Oh, I was like thinking like places that like
It's in Seattle.
Seattle.
Ooh,
Okay,
Seattle.
so that's one more movie that's like, oh yeah, part of the film in Seattle. There was like
Sleepless in Seattle. Yep.
and then there was also a third movie that just didn't do well with the starring Angelina Jolie. It was filmed in Seattle, actually.
Hackers?
It was not Hackers. I haven't seen that movie. That would make sense that Hackers being placed in Seattle, though.
I would like to visit Seattle one day. It seems like a beautiful town.
Mhm.
By the way, it wasn't part of. Am I wrong? Is Men in Black partly in Seattle?
No, I think that's New York.
I think that was
Is that
supposed.
still New York? Because they had like the tower. And it was shot partly in Seattle, I think, because you had
Probably.
yeah, okay, but
Maybe.
we're on a weird tangent at the moment.
Oh, that's okay.
That's how we do.
It's just like tangent from tangent. So let me, Sasha, everyone, shut up. There's a kitty on screen, all the way in the back.
He's
Just-
done watching his stories. So now he's just going
Oh, that's so sweet.
to. Mhm.
I'm back.
And look who just showed up on screen, Julie. On my camera. Over my right shoulder. Oh, you can't see him on the
Oh,
YouTube.
Sasha. Sorry, I just killed a mosquito with my bare hands.
Ooh.
Mm.
That was very satisfying.
Yeah. You're a murderer, just like me, a advocate for mass murder.
Yes.
If it's about mosquitoes, I'm in favor.
Okay,
Fucking-
yes.
Fucking
Some
mosquitoes.
Some mosquitoes carry malaria, others are useful pollinators.
Okay, can
cannot.
we just hire other people to do that for us? Other other insects.
We'll pay the bees.
Bees, yeah.
Pay the bees, yeah.
Isn't it that like they spend like $7 billion a year to keep like a lot of mosquitoes away from Florida? Because Florida is
probably.
basically shark-infested waters with like a swamp surrounded by shark-infested waters.
It's a marsh, actually. But yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Everglades is the giant marsh. Basically, the southern tip of Florida is just one giant marsh.
Yeah, I'm still baffled. Even we talked about Spanish before, but the Spanish decided, nope, we don't want to live here. We're done. We're just
But yeah,
We
most
don't-
of Florida is a jungle, really.
yeah. It's isn't that also you have like the Florida man myth? The Florida man is, and by the way, nowadays the most
Myth.
famous.
That's not a myth.
Well, the reason is because Florida has a law that requires them to make public all their arrest information, which most other states don't have.
That's interesting.
So they can find weird random shit and use it as filler, which most other states can't do.
You know who the most famous Florida man is now in the world?
Walt Disney.
No, Donald Trump, because he moved.
Oh, yes, that's right. Where the swamps
Florida
are.
man says that you should inject bleach and light up your ass.
Is there there should be an app that just switches his name with Florida man. That would be.
That was a trick question because he's not a man; he's a toddler.
Yeah. Okay. If according to the law, I mean, maybe he's a 70-year-old toddler. He also has the physique of a toddler, which is strange, and also he walks like.
He has the physique of a newborn. He stands and walks like baby Huey.
Yeah. It's really weird. It's a very strange.
I was talking
center of
about
gravity.
his temper, but yes.
Also, yeah. We're just completing it for you. We're just everything. We're filling it. You had a sketch on SNL, which is Boss, which is like the boss who has like the motoric skills of a baby, and there are a few sketches and they're really funny because it's just a guy who trying to walk. And he just tries to play with paper while he's being a CEO of a company, and it's actually they're quite funny, and it's kind of reminiscent of Trump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trump as president was just a joke, or we didn't know it was a warning in in Back to the Future 2, or that like Louis Black just like joked about in 2012, and then he was like, I didn't know I would be predicting the future.
The Simpsons,
that's right,
also did it, but yeah,
President Trump left us with a big mess, I think is what Lisa said.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, after Ronald Reagan, it wasn't really.
Yeah, there's that.
You know what I mean? You have a history of electing that kind of people. No, but electing assholes isn't just an American exceptionalism, okay?
Boris Johnson.
Macron,
yes. That's. Anyways. Electing TV personalities, though, that's something you do.
Yeah.
It is really strange that it shows the power of television in America until this day. It's really.
I'm as much as I love Arnold Schwarzenegger, I would never vote for him.
As Schwarzenegger, Jesse Ventura.
Something. So
Al Franken, Sonny Bono.
Wait, Al Franken was
he was on SNL.
Actor?
He's a writer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Writer and comic. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that didn't age well.
Jerry Springer also is involved in politics.
He was a politician first and a television personality later, right? Because he was mayor of Cincinnati,
and then he became
Cincinnati.
The Republican guy. He was on a senator who was also in movies, and he was on Law and Order for a while.
That guy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fred Dalton Thomas.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have a history.
By the way, Clint Eastwood, mayor. He was voted mayor.
God. I love Clint Eastwood, but his politics are so fucking awful.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what he did to his ex-wife?
No, I don't want to know what he did.
Okay. I'll spare you.
Are we talking Johnny Depp?
No. No. We're not talking. He did blacklist her from Hollywood, basically.
Oh God.
Okay.
I saw. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I must say, the strange enough. Here's the thing: people are very complicated. I'm not trying to defend Clint Eastwood here, but Clint Eastwood has done some very good things. He works with the same crew. He pays them well. For instance. He shot the movie, and one of my favorite movies from him is Unforgiven. It's an amazing film. and it's also about police brutality. It's about racism. It's about gender inequality, etc. And he shot that movie in Canada because in Canada you have very, very large stretches of land. And the Canadian said, okay, you need to hire Canadian people. And he said, well, I always work with the same crew, so it's going to be difficult. He said, okay, if you work with them for 5 years, you can take them with you. And he said, okay. So he took his entire crew because he worked with them for 20 years, basically. And he was able to shoot the movie there. So there are some good sides. And it's we live in, again, this would mean a binary society. People are complicated. Things they do in their 90-year lifespan.
No, I said he was an asshole because that was an asshole move, but it's not on the same level as Johnny Depp.
Oh no!
Or Kevin Spacey, let's say.
Oh my God! Yes, Kevin Spacey. Is that guy? Has he totally lost his mind, or was he always this insane?
What has he done
I
now?
don't know.
He has said something on Twitter. Or
well,
something like that.
he compared COVID with not being able to act because he sexually assaulted a 14-year-old.
What?
Yeah, I just saw Kevin Spacey compares coronavirus layoffs to his Me Too fall.
Yes, he did do that.
Compares coronavirus layoffs to being accused of sexual assault.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he is.
Spacey.
He is a garbage human being.
Yeah, he is really.
I need to accuse him.
Seeing that he hasn't worked on anything since Anthony Rapp spoke is really good.
Yeah,
I wish women would be taken as seriously, but I'm happy for
a slew of other conduct. Yeah, I hadn't heard about.
Well, but he's the first one who talked.
Yeah.
And as I love him, I'm happy that he was taken seriously.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't love him, I would be happy. But
I know Rapp was in Rent. Did he also do? Is he also in Disco?
He's Disco. Yeah, he's in Disco.
Yeah, he's on Disco. Yeah.
I must say that I think it's in Kevin Spacey's case. What really nagged him was not the accusation; it was the apology.
The non-apology.
Exactly. No, but it's the same.
He finally come out as gay after being accused of sexual assault.
No,
using that as an excuse, you killed him. It's the same with Louis C.K. I mean, if you look at Louis C.K., what he did was not good, but not as bad as Kevin Spacey. It's really strange to find, but his apology was super bad, very masturbatory, ironically. We talked about how people admired him several times. It was the second worst apology, so to speak. And that's why Louis C.K. still is not really having a career at the moment. Well, he's selling out, basically, but he's not far as famous as he was inescapable for the longest time. That's no longer the case, luckily. And I say that
the only person I know of who's actually done a good apology in the wake of that sort of accusation was Dan Harmon.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a community writer, right?
Yeah,
yes.
He was.
Yeah.
Unbelievably, and so well. He did it so well. You know,
I'm okay with it because his victim was okay with it. To be honest,
yes, that's the thing. Like
she called it a masterclass in apology.
Yeah.
I mean,
when you manage to make your victim feel good, feel better, you do that.
And that was amazing. You know, we did a really good job in apologizing, but still shit. Ben Affleck.
Oh God, I hate that guy.
Ben Affleck apologized in 2 sentences.
That has nothing to do with that, but
he's
I always hated that guy. I don't know.
Besides being in the Snyder films.
It's his fucking face. It's
what he did doing Me Too. He's talking about his face. I agree. He has an arrogant face. What is it with this face? Why? It's not his fault. Why do I hate him because of his face? He has the pretty boy. I never had a problem face, and that works really well in Gone Girl. It doesn't really work well when you need to sympathize with him.
It works so well in Dogma.
Oh, Dogma too.
You spend a movie wanting to slap him in the fucking face.
Yeah. And Matt Damon was amazing in that film.
I'm fed up with Matt Damon, but it's not because of his face. It's because we see him too much in too many movies. But it's I have the same issue with DiCaprio, to be honest.
Between Saving Private Ryan and Interstellar, we spent a lot of money rescuing Matt Damon.
Yeah. What an
Interstellar
asshole.
was such a fucking good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Still need to watch that one.
I don't. What's his name? The director.
I'm not a fan of him, to be honest.
Chris Nolan.
I'm not a fan of Chris Nolan.
Yeah, me neither. But honestly, that movie kind of blew me away, and I didn't really like Matthew McConaughey either. Well, I made peace with him with that TV show, True Detective.
Yeah.
That first season was so fucking amazing.
I think he can be really good. He's what you call a lazy actor.
Yeah, but have you seen interviews of him? He's such a cool guy.
He is really nice.
He was in my fraternity.
Oh,
not
really?
my chapter, but
yeah,
Delta Tau Delta.
No, I'm still not over it, John. You know. I will never associate you with that.
You didn't know me 20 years ago. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
Luckily, people can change. The same with me. No, I was very different when I went to college.
I was a big fan of Heinlein when I left for college.
Oh wow!
I was different too. I was listening to like a radio show that was like for men and talk about men's issues. I stopped listening to them and then started like, oh, what's this feminism thing? And so and that's how I'm here as a Anarcho-Syndicalist.
I wasn't like I am today, but I wasn't that different.
Well, you were raised by a Trotskyist.
Yeah, I was the same, but I was a little shit.
Let's face it, every 20-year-old is a little shit.
Yes.
Yeah. I love, by the way, how much you think you know things and how little you actually know things.
Oh God, yes, we are such babies at 20, and we think we know everything. You hit 20, you think you're an adult and all. And 20 years later, I'm like, yeah, right.
You little baby.
Yeah.
No, but also I thought, and this is because lack of knowledge leads to arrogance. And I thought, I said things like, well, if women are as good at writing novels as men, then why aren't there as many female writers? Thinking I was very clever, which is the case. And then I read Virginia, if I may give a short tip, A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. Very good, like long essay, where she lays out that the privilege men have in writing because they have their own fortune. They're usually rich people who just they did fuck all day except thinking about life, and they started writing. And women they weren't allowed to do those things, and that's why you had A Room of One's Own, which is one room where women could write. They could have a similar thing. And she says that what if Shakespeare had a sister who was equally gifted, but she had to take care of children while he was able to write, etc., etc.
In France, we have a tradition of female writers who took a guy's name to publish their books.
Oh yeah. England too. George Eliot, for instance.
The most famous is George Sand. She was Chopin's girlfriend. And she was fucking amazing. I'm not really into classical literature, but I really like the shit she wrote.
That was also kind of the plot, the main thrust, the thesis of The Wife that starred Glenn Close and Jonathan Pryce. That was not last year, but the year before. And
in what?
The Wife.
I haven't seen that.
It's a drama movie.
I'm not cinema savvy.
It doesn't have giant robots in it, so
exactly. It's not a movie that you wanted it to.
No, but I used to be. It's the funny thing. I used to be really into God, author cinema, if you can believe it. Boring, super boring stuff.
That was The Wife. I love the movie though, but I can see how like it's one of the movies where it's like nothing happens, and some people would be easily bored by it. Yes.
And I don't know if time I'm at. I think I don't know. I find a lot of movie boring, to be honest. I don't know why.
If you grow older, you've kind of seen a lot of tropes and you've seen a lot of things. When I was in my teens and 20s, I watched so many films, and then in my 30s, like, oh, I've seen that. Oh, this is going that way. Oh, this is this and that, and you kind of start seeing the patterns. And
I got into that point too, as well.
Like the movie 2012. I was like, oh.
I haven't watched that shit.
That was a pretty shitty movie. It was like, okay, you see a whole bunch of priests in the Sistine Chapel. Yeah. The ceiling is going to crack, and there's going to be a line dividing the two fingers. Yeah. You know it's going to happen, and yes, it happens.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's Roland Emmerich. What do you expect? I'm not watching his movies.
I mean,
the only one I watched was Stargate, but it's Stargate, for fuck's sake. I had to watch that shit.
Independence Day is an amusing film. It's a shit
film. I
I
haven't watched Independence Day.
And the funny thing is,
I refuse.
It's got Will Smith punching aliens.
Yeah, but the greatest moment. But a lot of people say, "Oh, I got goosebumps during that moment when Bill Pullman."
Oh my God! Yeah.
But the speech is a direct lift from Henry V. By the way, they just changed a few words. It's such lazy writing. It's just Henry V. Instead of Crispin Day, saying Crispin Day, they say Independence
Day. Yeah,
I know that speech very well.
Have you seen Mars Attacks by Tim Burton?
But that's hilarious.
It's the best satire of Independence Day ever.
Yes, it had everyone in it too.
Tom Jones in it is just amazing.
He did the international donut sign.
Oh God, I need to rewatch it. I missed a time when Tim Burton actually made good movies. Yeah,
and without Johnny Depp. Could he please make a movie without Johnny Depp?
Oh God,
he's like every time he like makes a movie.
Well, even some of his good movies are with Johnny Depp.
Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow and really Edward Scissorhands. I mean, Edward Scissorhands is one of his best movies. So
Ed Wood.
Oh yes, God, Ed Wood. I need to see that one.
Good.
Ed Wood is amazing. I showed someone. Someone said, "Oh, I've seen the worst movie of all time." No, you haven't.
Yes.
I'll show you Plan 9 from Outer Space, and we'll talk.
And The Room. Although that's not Ed Wood, but it's still the terrible movie.
The thing is it's a terrible movie. The thing is with The Room is the difference between Plan 9 from Outer Space and The Room is that Plan 9 Outer Space, I think, is made by someone who was nice. Ed Wood was a nice person. And I want him to do well. He's just really bad at his job. Well, the guy who made The Room is just a fucking asshole.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
If
you haven't seen the movie Ed Wood, I don't know if I couldn't watch it now with Johnny Depp in it. That fucker has ruined everything for me. So that's that. Well, every movie is in it. I can't. So.
You know what's a trifecta? Well, now a double actually, because I used to love Roman Polanski.
Oh God, yes. Oh, the Ninth Gate.
The Ninth Gate. The Ninth Gate is an amazing film. I just can't watch it anymore.
Maggie Mae Fish, just real quick, YouTuber, did an excellent video about Tim Burton and his movies. I just put a link to it in the chat.
Cool.
Yay.
It's basically talking about how much he loves Suburbia while pretending to
hate Suburbia.
Yeah. And how he borrows from German films without embracing their meanings.
Yeah, but it's
oh, you're breaking up a bit.
Oh, Dalek.
And looks like you're back now.
Oh, was I?
Yeah, you broke up a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, you went completely Dalek on us for a second here, but
Okay, I was talking about Das Kabinett des Dr. Caligari, where he like really lifts things from that. And it's again, he's like commercializing, I think, a genuine work of art, which is good if you use it as if you use it as inspiration, great. If you use it as your style, because it's not his style. If you just blatantly copy it, basically.
Just capitalist recapitulation of.
David just said he's not breaking up, he's speaking Dutch.
I think we probably informed Hank about like.
Oh, you broke up too? Goodbye.
Completely froze.
Oh no.
Yep.
Yeah. It's
yeah, I used to love Tim Burton. I was a fucking goth too, so there's that. But
and now Geek's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
now it tells me my internet connection is unstable. Thank you. But at least that's right. I have Leto to tell me that I froze.
The last the great movie Burton did, in my opinion, is Sleepy Hollow. I hate everything he did after that.
Me too. I have the same thing. I saw Sleepy Hollow.
I don't understand the thing people have with Big Fish. I really don't like that movie.
No, I hate that movie. And it's the same. His Planet of the Apes was terrible. A terrible film.
Yes.
Oh my God, Mark Wahlberg. Why?
Mark?
Oh, what a prick. Also, but yeah. Speaking of
Nation, man, so hard he went blind.
Yeah, true. You know who's
he's
actually
not freezing, he's speaking Swedish.
You know who I think is actually more deserving of being the rebel than Tim Burton is? They say Tim Burton is John Waters.
Yeah, John Waters is an asshole, though.
Is he an asshole? Why?
Yeah. Oh, a massive asshole.
Oh, it's
now
a shame,
maybe he wasn't, but now he's become. I don't know. He made some comment. He became like conservative.
Is John Waters a conservative?
He became kind of an asshole with time.
I find that strange considering his past films. He did make a film with Johnny Depp, Crybaby, which I really liked at the time.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah.
Well, I don't now, but
no, but it's really hard though. Look, the thing is, if you study literature, you study music, you study movies, practically, let's say a lot of people who've made great things have problematic histories, and it's I draw the line at: are they still making money? If they're still making money off it, I find it very difficult to support that. If someone in the 19th century has had, and his work does not, is part of that, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult, but I say you need to let the work speak for themselves, and the things they did. Yeah, it's a compromise.
Yeah, I draw the line at: did they rape anyone or did they beat up anyone? If they didn't, I can take the fact they're an asshole.
Yeah.
Because being an asshole doesn't make you a criminal.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, it's not the crime thing. It's the torture thing that gets me.
Yeah. For instance, if you look at the writer of, what's the name? Naked Lunch. William Burroughs. William Burroughs shot his wife by accident, he says, because he was on acid. His wife is also on acid, and they tried to do...
no shit. Have you seen the Cronenberg movie? Oh my god!
Yeah, I've seen that movie. So they were both on acid, and they thought they were inspired by Willem Tell, and he had a gun, and it was he was acquitted of that. But it was not good. But the movie, by the way, Naked Lunch, is amazing.
No,
watch
God,
that film.
I have an issue with Cronenberg. It's
because it's so fucked up.
Not as a person, as a director. I mean, it's oh my God.
As a director,
I love his. I have most of his films. I think it's amazing. I had a friend of mine. She studied psychology, and she said, "I need people to get a trauma from watching footage." And I'm like, "I've got the thing for you." So
naked fist. Yeah.
Oh no! I edited like several Cronenberg films with Takashi Miike films and several Japanese horror movies together, and they had a trauma. I'm very proud of that. I gave people a trauma with editing.
Some people are talking about Lovecraft in the chat. Lovecraft realized he was shit before he died. So
I have never found confirmation of that.
Yeah, I did, but I don't remember where. But
a letter he wrote or something like that.
He actually did say he was wrong. So,
but also you need to look at it, and this is not an excuse for racism, but there is something like in the time. There is a nice documentary where Stephen Fry is examining Wagner.
Yeah, fuck Stephen Fry.
Well, maybe,
I just say that just in passing.
Yeah, no, okay, but the documentary is quite good because it explains that yes, Wagner was an anti-Semite. The problem is in 19th century Germany, it's very hard to find someone who is not Jewish who wasn't an anti-Semite. Mm-hmm. So, is it overtly anti-Semitic? His work. You need to look at it from that perspective. It's the same as Shakespeare. Were there anti-Semitic pieces in The Merchant of Venice? Absolutely.
Yes.
But you look at it from the perspective of 17th century England, and look at it from those, and try to alter it so that it fits our current perspective. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's hard.
It is hard, but of
I
course,
don't know. I have more respect for someone like Lovecraft who realized he was full of shit than for someone like Tolkien, who never did.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's very difficult, and also there were a couple of 2 weeks ago there was this anger saying, "Oh, Lord of the Rings is not racist." It's really racist if you look at the way. Even in the films, that the bad guys are portrayed as Easterners, on the elephants and the appropriation.
Yeah, I blame Peter Jackson for doing that. He could have.
Yeah, it's not smart. Yeah. I usually think
David says Lovecraft also hated Dutch people.
Yeah, well, that's just David. Don't use him as a puppet. Come on. If you can't win an argument, don't you say, "Oh, don't start forging letters on Lovecraft." So it's, he's just angry that the most famous Swede is the Swedish Chef. So,
is that a character on the Muppet Show?
Yes.
Oh God, I love that character.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, the most famous character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Close second, the golden one.
Is he Swedish?
Golden one is Swedish.
Oh, I thought he was Norwegian.
And he lives
close enough.
One of the
and he lives in Ireland. Oh, don't you love Peter Sweden, who also doesn't live in Sweden?
I prefer Peter Norway.
Yes, the parody account, yeah.
Oh, David says the Swedish Chef is Norwegian.
He's just trying to pass it up. So, wait a minute. Is he saying that Sweden doesn't have famous people?
Sweden's not real. Sweden is just Finland.
Yeah. I tried to earlier today, or yesterday, I don't, as I slept, I'm a little fuzzy, but we talked about metal music, and he said symphonic metal was invented by the German, and until then, I thought Nightwish was Swedish, so I was going to throw Nightwish at him, but no, they are Finnish, so I couldn't own David with that. I'm very sad.
Dave, by the way, Dutch singer. She's Dutch.
Oh, the Skarsgård are Swedish.
She's an amazing singer, by the way. I love her. There's it's called Ghost Story. It's a 13-minute song. It's
Who?
so good. This is not Nightwish.
I hate Nightwish.
I love Nightwish.
I'm really not into symphonic metal. That's why, and it's very boring to me.
No, I
especially
like
the song you refer to. It's 10 fucking minutes long.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
That singer, I can't. She's the third singer they had, and I can't tell her apart from the two others. And
well, that's maybe you should. That's maybe because you knock out after a minute. That's.
No, I listened to that fucking song in full, but that's not my shit. To each their own. I know a lot of people are into Nightwish. I am really not. I find that fucking boring.
I was going to go to a concert in November, but I don't think it will go through.
Yeah,
it's a shame because I was such a nice run. I saw last year. I saw Metallica. I saw Tool. I saw Rammstein, and now, it's a shame.
I love Tool's music, but when I heard what James Keenan has done, it's just like,
yeah, he's a fucking rapist. Fuck him.
I don't know. Look, here's and seriously, I could only find the anonymous tweet.
Yeah, what's the source of it?
I don't care that it's anonymous. It's really believable, and
other stories came out because
I don't need to know who she is. I honestly,
I did,
and it's not out of character for the man. Let's be honest.
Oh no! It's I don't know. I haven't really looked into that yet. Because I would love to see. You said other stories came out. I would love to read that.
But it was posted once, like that anonymous tweet that I'm referring to got posted to Reddit. Others came forward sharing their stories.
Oh, I didn't see the Reddit thing.
I saw other people posted it on Reddit, and once I saw similar stories with similar details of like being the manager, him pointing to the girl, that girl being his type, and as now not the end of the stories, content warning just in general. And the stories didn't end up with like the complete ad. Some of them just like walk away. Oh, I'm out of this trailer, because he would bring the girls back to his trailer to do what he wants. Some of the girls would be like, "Nope, I'm gone," and then he would just run up and grab them. No, don't go. You're so special to me. You're very special. Can you give me your phone number?
Ew.
Okay, I'll give you your phone number. She left, and he never called her. So that one girl managed to like leave when he whipped his dick out, essentially.
Good for her.
Good for her, but others didn't. So that's again, when I saw the other stories came out, that's after the first anonymous tweet. That's where I was like, okay, Major Shane Schemer. No, it's like, so I've been finding covers for a Tool song, and I still love their music. I find it difficult now to like listen to it now. And then again, I also have a friend that like, I have a tattoo of Tool. Yeah,
I never really liked Tool though, but I really did like Pussifer though. It's another one of his projects.
Yes, Perfect Circle as well is another one of his projects too. I still love those music, but it's just like it's difficult now for me.
Yeah, it's just impossible for me. I was earlier today. I was arguing on. Steve's on one of Steve's posts with an asshole. No, he made a post on Facebook to his late sitting.
Oh, okay.
Of Batman, Superman Returns.
Right.
And I made a little love heart with Brandon Routh because I love him, and I said there's Spacey in that movie though, so it didn't age well. That's all I said. And some guy come to, well, actually me, to tell me, well, actually, a lot of movies have people, have assholes in their cast and blah, 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 blah. Like, what the fuck? Fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
And I told him, like, yeah, good for you if you can watch those movies. Like, not sarcastically. I envy the people who can go past all those shit. I can't. I just can't. And he accused
You
me
don't have to,
of being
right?
holier than thou. And I told him to go fuck himself.
Good. Well, usually it's because you make people feel like they're inadequate or something, and that's them. That's them feeling inadequate, and they're like lashing out to you because you make them feel inadequate.
No, I know, but deal with it, dude.
No, you're absolutely right.
And yeah, I have friends who, girlfriends who are not feminist per se, and I envy them sometimes, because as much as the red pillar think they took the red pill, that's a metaphor that is really more adequate for women who discover feminism. You can't unsee it anymore, and it spoiled a lot of shit for me.
Yeah, isn't that a bit what Anita Sarkeesian said, especially at the beginning, that when you become aware of power structures and feminism and intersectionality, suddenly you see problems with everything?
Yes, that's how I've been like with discovering like anti-capitalism, socialism, communism, and anarchism. It's like, oh my god, there's problems in a lot of these things. And same thing with feminism. You just like start seeing it everywhere because you're just now made aware of it.
I don't know. The capitalism thing hasn't the same impact on me because, like John said, I was brought up by a fucking Trotskyist. So I was born in the knowledge that capitalism was bad. I didn't have a revelation about that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar, and I think you are, Julie, but are you familiar with The Good Place, the show?
Mm-hmm. That show is so good.
It's so good. It's basically season 3 is all consumption.
I haven't seen season 3 yet.
Okay, I won't say anything about the plots, but there's a thing like all everything is evil under capitalism, or everything.
Oh no, dialect.
Decision you make as so much a simple good or bad decision is almost impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to realize you just try to be a good person. I mean, I have the same thing every time I order. I'm like, oh shit, Amazon. I don't want to order on Amazon, but the problem is I can't afford, or it's the only one who has, or it's.
No, sorry, I was just telling David to shut up. You can go on.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Trotsky, yeah. Amazon has ice picks, but.
Go ahead. Yeah, finish.
No, but that's my point. So it makes everything so difficult, and I often notice like, oh no, I don't watch that or I don't do that because, for instance, I had a problem with Uber. Fuck Uber. So I'm saying, we're going to take an Uber. I don't take an Uber. I'd rather walk. But that's with me, and I can do that because I have a good set of legs.
When you're disabled, it's a little
exactly.
less.
But that's also that's what I mean with choice. It's
once I had to take an Uber, just the once, and I hated it, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, but true. But and that's what I mean. It's that every choice you make, and it's different and it's the same with buying things on Amazon. Sometimes people who are disabled, it's very good that things are delivered. So you go on Amazon and not at the Papa Mom store at the corner because Amazon delivers.
Yes. And there's
yeah,
been like
and sometimes the store at the corner doesn't have the shit you need, but
exactly.
That's another issue here.
Well, because of like Amazon's like hegemony for like before this whole thing is like that's why Payless Shoes like went out of business. They couldn't compete with like Amazon. But like because of the COVID-19 thing and how Amazon's been treating its employees, like the ones that calling for strikes, people have like talked about like doing like a consumer boycott of like Amazon. And part of me is just like, yeah, let's do that. But then I think like, but man, I know so many friends that are like on Twitch, Twitch streamers, and Twitch is owned by Amazon. And so it's just like, I don't know how we can actually effectively, all of us, boycott Amazon if it's been like so superfluous. And I already paid my yearly Prime subscription as well. So it's like, well, I'm gonna like see, I could use it for a full year, I guess.
But boycott doesn't work anyways.
No, boycotts don't work, and that's true. Because people are, you need a very long time and a lot of people in order to make it work. But let's take Zoom, for instance. Zoom is owned by a Chinese company. And we all know how the relationship with the government in China are, etc., etc. The problem is, it is impossible, because I'm trying in the co-op, we're trying to make a network that is open source, that is a platform for people just to speak their mind, that there's no, etc., etc. The problem is, most people aren't going to watch that, because most people are on YouTube, and YouTube is owned by Google, and Google isn't open source. So you need to find ways around it. But in the meantime, we need to use it, because this is where the eyes and ears are. And boycotts, like you said, don't work. Hopefully, things like these do.
I wish they would, though. Maybe they will in the future, but historically they have never worked. So why? It has nothing to do with the conversation, but why 197A, John?
Because my
it's
numbering
been bothering
has
me
up a few times.
Because I mentioned in our group chat, oh wait, we never had a social justice alchemy number 75, and we also skipped.
So you're postponing the 100? Is that it?
Until we get to the actual 100.
Okay.
Yes. So yes. So
we're sorry, it has nothing to do, but
the week
it was
after that will be 98A.
It was really bothering me. So.
We are close to the social justice alchemy number 100, but we're not as close as like we like to think, because we never actually we did this before. Number 49A, communists can't count.
I can count.
Yeah, okay.
You don't have a beard. Beards are what make you unable to count.
Look here. Look, men with beards. That's what it is.
We're communists. We have to have beards.
It was Karl Marx. It was Karl Marx's birthday earlier this week as well. On
same day as Steve Shives.
Yes, exactly. And as well as Cinco de Mayo, which now people have to celebrate indoors. And it was like the day, May 5th is the day.
That's a Swedish holiday, right? Cinco de Mayo? Or?
Mexico, okay. But it is not Mexicans' Independence Day. No, Mexico's Independence Day is September 17th. Get that right. But then again, Americans.
Isn't counting in French basically insane? Well, not when you're French, David. That's.
What he's actually saying is that it's being
for
French
2019 to say.
No,
99.
I know. But before I learned to speak another language, and before speaking with people who hadn't French as their first language, I didn't realize that it was crazy. It was just the way we counted. So
Japan
to be fair, older French has actual words for those numbers, and Belgians and in Switzerland, they actually use those words. We don't anymore. I know them because my grandma used them, but the generation after me, they don't know them anymore.
So instead of cavern, it's huiton? 99.
Octante.
Octante.
Yeah, septante, octante, nonante.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid balloons. Never trusted them. I think here's the thing: the Walloons had the choice between Dutch and French, and they chose French. It's not good.
Have you heard your fucking language? You're not very well placed to criticize mine.
European points. All right.
I love the fact that we're like this big on the map, and we all bitch on each other. That's so funny. Every country is like, oh, our 4 million people are clearly better than your 4 million people.
No, it's not about being better.
It is to me.
Your language is every bit as insane as mine.
No, it's beautiful. It's absolutely. That's why I studied English, because Dutch is very beautiful.
No, for real though. Your language is weird.
What? Well, okay, do you have an example?
No, how can you? I can't even pronounce the shit.
Yeah.
I have a sequel to our fun with languages. Like
when I was a teenager, we went on vacation at a lake, and Dutch people are famous to come to France on.
That is true. I went to France many
vacation,
times.
and they wear socks with their sandals.
No. Whoa. Not all Dutch people do that. That's just them.
A whole nation of 45-year-old dads.
Yeah.
And so there were these two teenage boys who were beautiful. And when we went to talk to them, the blonde one was named Joep.
Joep, yeah. Joep. What's wrong with that?
It's a racial slur in French to talk about Jewish
Well, that's because
people.
French is weird. It's because French is weird. Don't blame the Dutch for French weird stuff. Because things are weird in France doesn't mean it's weird in Dutch.
It's the French equivalent of the K word.
Yeah, I know now, but that's not. Look, what you're basically saying is that because French has like a plethora of racist terms, that's not our fault.
The only word I know in your language that's not people's name is Rooibos.
Rooibos, yeah.
It's because I drink the shit. So yeah, but it's Dutch.
Yeah, because we used to run South Africa. The most famous Dutch word, by the way, and you know this word, is apartheid. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's
is that a Dutch word? Okay.
It's very Dutch. Yeah.
It means heads apart.
Yes. That's all it means. And so
actually, I had no idea what the hide part.
It means separate, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Apartness.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the most famous Dutch word. So that's our legacy.
Yep.
Nice. Well, Rooibos too.
Rooibos too. That's true. Yeah.
That's a nicer word, though.
It is a nice word. I do believe
also,
that nowadays.
It's
what does it mean?
Rooibos is
red plant.
Yes, it means a red shrub, basically.
Yeah, it's a kind. It's not proper tea, but it's.
It's like a herbal tea. The thing is,
in France we call it red tea because when it infuses, it's really red orange. The color is fucking amazing.
The colors, but the name nowadays is seen as colonialist also because originally it had an African name, and now you're starting to see the tea with its original African name, which I don't know because it's not Dutch. No, but
I hadn't. That controversy didn't hit France.
Well, that's because we in the Netherlands are way ahead of France. No, I'm kidding.
It's the windmills.
I just happened to read an article on that, and I thought it was interesting because I hadn't realized that. Of course, it's a colonialist term, and maybe people who actually have been naming the plant for thousands of years should have like preference over what we be calling it for like.
Yeah, but are they the ones that are exporting it though?
Well, I don't know, but
it was called like that because I guess Afrikaner companies were exporting it. I don't know. The way you name something, it seems a petty hill to die on, but maybe I just say that as
I'm not saying
someone
it's
from
like a huge
very
problem.
colonialist country too. So I don't know.
I heard a story. I studied, like I said, I studied languages, and one of the stories in intercultural communication, I followed a course on that, is that the French have, there are different types of French, and one of the French taught Africans a different French than the French they learn, that they speak themselves, because there is a letter, like I said, a sound called U,
yes,
etc. They consider that, because the Dutch have it as well. That is a sound for advanced people. That's what they say. And so the African way of pronouncing this, there are African accents. They just have another sound for that, and that had to do with.
That's stupid.
That sounds really.
That's choosing language as
especially since Anglophones can't pronounce that fucking sound for the life of them, though.
My guess is that it's just the way they learned it and the accent they spoke with.
Well, no, it's
is it documented that this was
in the Netherlands? Well, it's what I learned at university, and I read several articles on the subject.
Okay.
Maybe
that's
it's not
true, David. David says, I heard that in 1880, 80% of French people didn't speak French. I don't know if the numbers are right, but yeah, we have something called patois. And
patois.
It's dying now. It's like local dialects. Apart from Little Brittany, they still have their language, and Corsica, they still have their language, but other places I know the dialect from my region is all but dead. It doesn't exist anymore. No one speaks it anymore. So
in the Netherlands, we have to too. It's the same thing.
Yeah, even a century ago, you don't have to go to the 19th century. At the beginning of the 20th century, people understood French, but they didn't speak it at home. Well, hardly.
They spoke a very heavily modified version.
Or
just even a different language.
It's different.
It's one of the languages that made up French, if you will. French is made up of a myriad of little dialects.
Yeah, it's the same in the Netherlands. Strange enough, again, such a small country, but the Dutch as a national language is actually founded with the translation of the Bible, and the language they chose as the most Dutch was an accent near Haarlem, a little town in the Netherlands, which was the capital of North Holland, which we talked about first. And I come from a region where a lot of Saxon words are still used. So a lot of Dutch people, when they go to my area, they don't understand the people because they speak a dialect which is so heavy that they have no clue.
That's funny.
And that's interesting. That's like 100 kilometers. I taught people how to respond. I worked at a call center, and this person from Amsterdam says, "I don't understand these people. They have an accent." And I said, "You have an accent too?" And she said, in like the most thick Amsterdam accent, "No, I don't." Because what she perceives as normal.
Yeah, everyone has an accent.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good old Swedish, imperialist Sweden. Force all people to learn Swedish to recite Luther.
No, but people knew how to speak French. That's not it wasn't
the language they spoke at home.
Yeah, it's a little like in China, if you will. Everyone understands and knows how to speak Mandarin, but it's not the language they speak among themselves. every region has its own language, and it's not language. No, it's dialect, because
and sometimes it is different languages. China's big.
Yeah, I know, but even as if you look at English, when the talkies came in the 1920s, and American films came to England, English people didn't understand Americans, because for them it was such a weird accent, and they were like, "What are they saying?"
I mean, it is a weird
also,
accent.
they were talking really, really
Americans
fast.
talk like you have a potato in your mouth.
And
we haven't yet mastered our non-regional diction.
Yeah, and that is how the mid-Atlantic accent came. People like Cary Grant, who spoke with like this middling accent, half European, half American.
Yeah, that's the accent we learn in school in France, actually.
Oh, that's really nice. So, do you also speak like you all speak like Cary Grant? That's amazing.
No, we don't, because we refuse to learn how to do accents. Basically, how most people sound. Most French people sound when they speak English is like the caricatures you see in the movies. Honestly, I have a thick accent now, and I'm making an effort to not have an accent. But if I really stop giving a shit, I'm starting to talk like that, you know?
I've learned that Germans prefer to learn English with an American accent, because it sounds more foreign.
Yeah. Plus, the Brits, I must say, the Brits have quite a reputation in Europe as well. If you look at the Dutch alone, had 5 wars with the English.
Talk about France. You want to know
like I said,
the history between us and the Brits?
Hey, wait a minute. We also had wars with France, by the way.
Because you're right next door. Of course, you can have wars.
Which side were you during World War II, by the way? I don't even know.
What?
They got invaded by the Nazis almost immediately, too.
Yeah, well, the Nazis...
you were invaded. You weren't allied with Germany.
No, we weren't. No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
I didn't know. I was asking that because...
we were... in World War I, we were neutral. Because we quickly realized that selling weapons to both parties is very lucrative.
Of course.
This is why you had the Fokker airplanes. Fokker airplanes were Dutch-made. And we also made the guns that shot us.
Says, leave me out of this.
Mithras from the UK.
He is our resident Brit.
It's sorry. This is the first time a British person says, "Leave me out of this." You invaded 185 countries.
No. They've left. They're out now.
They're out of Europe.
They had a hard exit.
No. They're out when they give up North Ireland.
Yes.
I agree with that.
So it took them, by the way, hundreds of years to leave France, by the way, too.
No, but the history of Europe is quite fun.
It is fun, yeah. It is if you take away all the murder and intrigue and enormous.
It was fun between courts, you know.
Yeah.
It is, and the selling weapons to everyone's the strategy that has worked for Sweden for the last 100 years.
I'm pretty sure every single European country has been at war with each other.
Oh, I think a lot, yeah.
No, I'm willing to bet that Lithuania has never gone to war with Belgium.
Yeah, Belgium isn't a proper country, though, so they weren't at war with anyone.
No, but they speak 3 languages, first of all.
They still have a fucking king. It doesn't count.
Oh, wait a minute. We also have a king.
Yeah,
but our
but
king
you don't count.
So why don't we count?
Because you have a king, but he's not a cute king that wears funny hats like they do in Sweden, I think.
Well, the thing
Sweden don't count. Basically, Italy, Germany, and France count.
Oh yeah, but that's spoken like a French person. Wait a minute, aren't we supposed to be anarchists who don't believe in states?
That's why you don't count. You have a king, therefore you don't count.
No, our king looks like a greengrocer, so it's fine. He looks like a guy working at a 7-Eleven, basically, and the only reason he's not working at a 7-Eleven is because he came out of a royal vagina.
William Alexander.
Yeah, Willem Alexander. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
okay. Do you need guillotines, comrades?
We do.
Yeah, you don't have a king. That doesn't count.
We have a
bus
head
stop
of
lawyer.
that acts like one.
First of all, United States has Burger King, and
but we're ruled by Ronald McDonald.
Yeah. Hey.
I'm not talking to you anymore.
Isn't it strange, by the way, that when we're talking about Nazis and no one talks about Italy being part of that entire thing? It's like with the Italians, we're like, yeah, okay, but they suck at fighting, so let's just eat their
they
pasta.
conquered Ethiopia.
Well, with help from the Germans,
yeah,
and they even got their asses kicked by the Greeks.
But they made the trains run on time.
Yeah, that's still yeah.
Yeah, but that little dictator was hung by the feet and all. It was quite fun.
It was very fun. And I do like one of my.
I love to see the memes on Facebook every year for the anniversary of his
when he's on the way around.
Yep.
Yeah, with the smileys upside down. It's very funny. And people sending that specific smiley to his granddaughter on Twitter is really nice.
It's such so amazing that
Is she still a fascist?
Oh yeah.
Well, she doesn't. What's the word? Say. Oh, for fuck's sake! I can't even think of the word in French.
That's because
she doesn't.
Do you know it in Dutch?
Forget it. I'm not going to.
But she's a fascist.
Yeah, she's still. She's proud of her grandfather. Is my point. Okay. That's not the word I was looking for, but.
I accidentally went on a date with someone who liked Mussolini. It kind of came up when she was Italian and she was traveling, and I thought, oh, she's artistic. And I'm like, okay, let's go on a date. So we went on a date, and she says, well, Mussolini got a bad rep, she said.
Oh, God.
I'm like, oh, I got to hear this. And she said, okay, why? First, before I bite her head off, let her explain.
Maybe she's just.
And she said, well, yeah, exactly. For instance, or maybe he was very nice to kittens. I'm like, okay, but what about the genocide?
Yeah, people forget that there were concentration camps in Italy. It's not well known, but there were. They existed.
Absolutely. So she asked, and she said, well, my grandmother really liked him, and he was really nice to my grandmother. And then I said, but could it be because your grandmother is a fucking fascist? And apparently that did not fall well with her. It was a short date.
My paternal
was your grandmother
grandfather...
Jewish? I'm guessing she wasn't.
No.
My paternal grandfather was a fascist. He fought for Mussolini during the war. He abandoned my father, and I hate the guy. I never knew him, but he was a piece of shite.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I am half Italian and half French, so...
Thankfully, that's the reason why you're saying that Italy is only important in Germany. It's Italy, Germany. It's the Axis powers and France. So Vichy, France, and
it's the three countries who don't have a king. No, well, yeah, no. Seriously, I'm very grateful that my French grandfather was in the resistance because. The other fashy one was not that great. He was a teenager, my grandfather, during the war, and he was in the resistance. That was badass.
Yeah, my grandfather too. He couldn't go to his mother's funeral because he was wanted. So yeah, it's really strange. Really weird times.
That's strange and badass.
A bit, yeah.
So
we have been going for more than 3 hours.
Yes.
Wow.
Not me.
You sound like it though.
At this point, we wake you up.
I sounded like it when I arrived, so that doesn't count.
So yes, we'll do pitches. Culture shots. What your YouTube channel is about? Should people check it out?
Well, I already talked a bit about my YouTube channel, but do check it out.
That
Culture
was 3
shots.
hours ago, so.
Oh yeah, it's 3 hours ago. I try to analyze culture. I was gone for a little while. I'm trying to get back to it. It's hard to do with a full-time job and all the things going on.
We had talked about doing something,
yes,
David and I, but that fell flat.
That fell flat because at the time I was very busy, and I would still really like something. Maybe we could talk about it and we'll see what we can do. So we do try to. Oh, there it is, my channel. Look it up and comment what you like, what you don't like, and what you want to see more, and I will try to do it.
David, you sounded half Italian when you arrived late. Shut up.
Hey, first of all, French people are late too, so that's not Italian.
I'm not late. I'm never late, usually.
She said,
"You're never allowed to give me shit again for definite."
You should see her back. Go fuck yourself, John.
So I'm Summer and the Geek. I have my own YouTube channel. I'll put content on there. I do have a Twitch channel. Links are below for all of that. Twitch.tv/Summer and the Geek. Maybe I'll do something there like Tonight Pre-Riot. I'll work things out there. Charity links was already in the live chat earlier. Please, if you have money, it's trying times, do give money to those people. We would like to also thank our patrons over on Patreon. And even though you don't need to give us money, but you decide to, and this trying times, we appreciate that. We forgot to thank them earlier in the broadcast.
And we have 2 new patrons.
Oh, right. Excellent.
Really?
So, yes. So thank you to Eli and Lisa and Marty and Social Justice Demon.
Oh,
thank you, everyone.
Nice.
Yes.
And, thanks, babes.
And I'm done with my pitches, so John, take it away.
All right. As for me, in addition to hanging out with these fuckers every week, I also do a D&D podcast hosted by my friend Kevin, Dungeons and Debacles. Heck of a lot of fun. You can find that on any of your podcatchers. All right. And with that, everybody can fuck off.
Yes, fuck off.
Bye-bye, comrades. Potential
Don't forget
comrades.
to take your meds.
Take your